What's going on, guys? Welcome to the first ever live stream for game time discussions on NFL Sunday. Cam and I are very excited. We've been talking about this a lot, and we are going to get into it. It's the day, man. It's finally
Man,
here. But we,
it's
of course, had
Christmas
a couple
morning.
games, but
It's beautiful. It's a
yeah.
beautiful thing.
We're going to start by talking about the previous games that we already that already happened. Kansas City and Baltimore, and then of course Green Bay and Philadelphia. A lot to take away from those. Cam and I were actually really early on everything when it came to the first game. We talked about kind of our scripts and what we thought how we thought the game was going to go. We put it out to y'all. If you watched the Thursday Night Football show earlier in the week, and we had that game all kinds of penciled up, right? I mean, we had it all kinds of figured out. Almost hit the score on the dot, so that was pretty cool. Missed it by 3 points because of a field goal by Baltimore, but very close. And yeah, we were excited about that game for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you checked out our first look on the showdown, like we called out the tournament plays, how it went down, the guys you had to get to, guys to fade. I actually chickened out and didn't end up fading entirely Mark Andrews. That's
Right.
the only reason I didn't cash in all three lineups that I submitted. But yeah, it was a great day, fantastic day. It was a fun game from a non-DFS perspective. What a way to kick off the season. It was just you know a great football watch, and I think it set records for the biggest opener in terms of viewership ever. So NFL is off to a rocking start in that regard.
Yep, and I'm going to share the screen, and I'll get to the ESPN so we can look at those games. We're going to go over these to start, just kind of like as a recap, kind of like to get everybody awake and talking and looking into things. We'll definitely need some comments and talking to get in the description and stuff and start talking with us because we definitely want to conversate this morning. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to
I
talk
built a
about all the
lot of
games,
lot of
all the line.
community lineups.
Yep.
It's going to be a lot of fun. As much as y'all want to hang out, please do. We're going to be on here till probably about 11:15, 11:30. Get out of here. Basically, kind of key talking points is going to be heavy main, kind of starting around 9 o'clock. Going to talk about pick'ems before that, in every game on the slate today. Then 10 o'clock we'll be doing kind of some of the special slates. So like early only, afternoon only, prime time. The showdowns for today and tomorrow night. Things that not many people that are online and do live streams talk about. Everybody just wants to talk about Maine because that's where all the money is, but that's not always where all the fun is.
Well, if you something we talk about a lot on the show is like if you put your money in a lot of different places, it's kind of like if you build a portfolio or something in like investing. It's you're going to go against in this situation, you're going against a smaller field of people that actually play it, and that gives you a completely different opportunity. So if you build a line, and we do this all the time, we build a line in Maine, and it only fits it only fits early only. And like that line goes straight into our only lineups also because we only take players from the 12 o'clock game, and then we're like, oh, like this worked out perfectly. Let's just put it in early only and see if it works.
Yeah,
There.
like the two biggest games that we're targeting today, and then we'll get back to the recaps in a second, are Buffalo versus Arizona and then Jacksonville, Miami. Those are the two highest totals, most exciting plays. They're both in the 12 o'clock slate. So in initial looks, when I've been doing Maine, it's like I put in 8 guys in the early slate, and then only have one guy left. You're not really going to gain or lose spots when you just have one guy left,
Mm-hmm.
typically, unless he just goes nuclear. So essentially, why not just find a replacement for that guy and then put an early only?
Right, absolutely. Dustin says Marvin Harrison Jr. is him. I actually have a good amount of Marvin Harrison Jr. Cam and me talked about this on the other show earlier in the week, the one that showed both thumbnails. Actually, we were talking about this the other day, but those are the games we're targeting, and those are the thumbnails because they're so important. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably going to be very low owned, and that makes him very interesting.
Yeah. Obviously, we're not going to be covering via live streams or first looks
Right.
FanDuel this year. He is very affordable at 6,600 on FanDuel. He is 72. You don't really see guys that are $500, $600 more expensive on DraftKings because typically on FanDuel you have 10,000 more to spend.
Yeah.
So everybody's more expensive. He's 600 cheaper on that site. So he's going to be very popular over there. But over here, I really don't think many people are getting to him. Like, we don't really have a resource for. I was bummed because PFF is a free uh, before they've done free ownership updates
Hmm.
for non subscribers and whatnot. And so that was something that we were going to show you. Like, if you don't have the means to just invest a bunch of money in an optimizer or anything like that, this is what we have done over the years. And then they stopped doing that this year. So
Yeah.
we don't really have a resource to just kind of show you ownership and how it's probably going to go down. It's just kind of, we can speculate.
Right.
But yeah, 7,200 for a rookie. Uh, Based on Kyler Murray not even being a top 6, 7 projected owned quarterback at $6,400, Josh Allen only being 8% owned. Not many people are really going to that game, and so that's why when you have all these totals and highest, scoring games on the slate, you want to pivot where ownership is not. So if everybody is on Anthony Richardson, don't play Anthony Richardson, because
Right.
why should he be double the ownership than Josh Allen, who is in a far better matchup environment for himself, and he's got
And he's
more affordable
Josh
stacking
Allen. And
options.
he's Josh Allen. Like, compared to Anthony Richardson, what do you have on that tells you Anthony Richardson's better than Josh Allen right now?
Yeah, and so that's what we were saying before we came live. We were like, we were gonna just like, man, fuck all these guys that are just like
Yeah.
pumping them up. But actually, you know what? Thank you.
Yeah, I
We appreciate
appreciate
you making
y'all.
the ownership inflate even more than what it should
Exactly.
be.
But let's get to this Kansas City Baltimore game. I actually predicted it 27-20. Cam predicts it 24 to 20, I believe.
Mhm.
Both of us 3 points off both ways. So we're real close. Big takeaways for me. You should be a little worried if you're Derrick Henry owners, but the only bright side of this game that for Derrick Henry is the fact that this was a negative game script. In positive game scripts, he's going to be probably better than this, but he looked so terrible just being out there. He looked like he was old.
Yeah.
Like, he looked old. 13 for 46, 3.5 yards a rush. I know that Kansas City's defense is pretty good, but still, that is not pretty.
Yeah,
And go ahead, sorry.
with Derrick Henry, you shouldn't be listening to anybody that tries to take positives away from or tries to justify the Derrick Henry performance.
Right, no.
Because everybody was on him as justifying him as, oh, he's going to score 20 touchdowns this year. He's the second round pick in your redraft league. And listen, he's going to be favored in probably 3/4 of the games this year. So it would project to be a positive game script. But Justice Hill was in on the third play and immediately hit his over on our in receiving yards, which is something we called out in our Discord. Like, and then when Keaton Mitchell comes back, that's even less passing work. He in a PPR league is just a non-start for me building a team, and we've been saying that all summer long, based on the price. And we love him. He's a very safe RB2, and he's going as a mid-tier RB1.
Yeah.
And it kind of showed last night. It's like we were kind of doing some debating with a couple of our members in the Discord, and they were saying Henry touchdown prop, and we weren't saying to go the under.
No, yeah.
We were just like, we don't feel comfortable in him having a good game, and we were hit right on the head on that. Only thing is, he fell into the end zone on the first score of the game.
Yeah.
So it was one of the rare occasions where both parties were right, but it's just one of those things where I don't know when I'm just going to be heavily pumping him, because I feel like, especially on DFS slates, his price is always going to be more expensive than what it should be.
Yeah, exactly. The other guys to talk about on the Baltimore side of the game, Lamar Jackson, he actually played pretty well. They've got to figure out how to like win games. Like, it's time. They're right there. They got to win those games. And I don't know, man. I know that he actually said that he wasn't throwing that ball to Zay Flowers, which makes me even more concerned.
Yeah, you were wrong either way.
Yeah.
And it makes you sound even worse when you try to justify instead of just
being wrong.
Hey, I need to be better because you're a 2-time MVP. You're either wrong for not seeing him wide ass open.
Yes.
Or you're in the wrong for just missing a
wide
elementary
open,
throw.
yeah, wide open receiver.
And that doesn't count. Like Isaiah Likely, that wasn't like an easy throw to make, but when you're an MVP, like just throwing it to the side of the end zone was an easy completion, and it would have never got to the Baltimore lost, like Brandon just commented, which is pretty funny.
Yes, Baltimore. Yeah, there you go. The other guys to talk about, Isaiah Likely, I'm gonna expect at least in our league, we're gonna see a lot of fab being paid for him, because he was so dominant. And Mark Andrews, of course, Mark Andrews was in the car crash. Like, I kind of understand this, like, 2 for 14 line. Like, I get it. He was in a serious accident, and it did probably show a little bit. Isaiah Likely took advantage of that. But it was a very interesting dynamic between the tight ends. They actually played. We talked about this a lot all summer long on our best ball stuff. Get Isaiah Likely because we expect them to probably be in 2 tight end sets a lot because their third receiver is Nelson Aguilar, and Isaiah Likely is much better than that as a blocker and as a pass catcher. So
yeah, I mean, with Isaiah Likely, we kind of preached Mark Andrews deserved to be a part of the top 5 of the tight ends, like in the
right,
tier 1 of the tight ends, and it's great. And he actually became a pretty solid value in terms of best ball at the very end, where he kind of fell into the 6th round and kind of separated himself a little bit.
right,
I wouldn't be overly concerned about him. It kind of seemed like they were just going to be like, if you're going to beat us, you're going to beat us by likely doing check downs. It wasn't like, other than the very strong touchdown, and then obviously the almost second touchdown,
right.
likely everything was just a 1 yard, check down.
He's a good athlete, and he could,
Great athlete,
made
but
plays after
I
that.
don't know if that's necessarily going to translate into every single week. He's a start. Like, he's going to be a huge fab waiver wire pickup this week. And
Does he deserve it?
is he going to be a consistent top 10 tight end every week? I don't know. We'll see, but I wouldn't just sell my Mark Andrews stock just yet. But in best ball, like I said, you should have double stacked him, because if you did, like we did on most of our shares with Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, we weren't upset.
No, absolutely
because one equals the other, and you're going to have 30 points in your tight end slate or tight end spot more often than not if you took both.
not. Exactly. One other guy to get a little bit of Justice Hill, of course. Two guys, I guess. Justice Hill caught some passes out of the backfield. We expected him to be the third down back. That was really one of the calls that we made all week. And then the other guy, do not sell your stock on Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers actually had 10 targets on here, but he had 4 more targets that got called back for penalties. Those weird penalties.
3 of them were first downs.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, he could have had well over 80, 90 yards.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those that didn't work out. So he did well. But what was cool was we did our in the Discord. Once again, if you haven't joined, please do, because we're talking DFS slates, props, and all that stuff all week long, all Sunday morning or Sunday throughout the day. But we were saying our favorite tournament plays were Isaiah Likely and Justice Hill.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, both of them were the 2 highest scoring skill players on the Ravens. And if we would have done a 2-legger parlay on that, that would have been some very, very nice cash.
Yeah.
If we would have done that, because both of them had a huge game relative to price.
Right. And then, so we'll actually get to Kansas City, Dustin. Dustin asked about Travis Kelce. Starting though at the top, let's talk about Patrick Mahomes and his pass catchers, because all 3 of them, if you come down here, 1, 2, 3, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Travis Kelce. I don't know that I hated actually any of how it went. I think with Travis Kelce, of course, you want more than 4 targets. You paid a lot of money, paid a lot of capital for him when you picked him. But truly, they just had a game plan, and it was slants to Rashee Rice. I mean, Michael Thomas reincarnate out there, out of the slot. And so I don't know that I think it hurts Travis Kelce. I just think it's week by week more so than anything. And I think
you're also never going to see Noah Gray.
Exactly.
Outperform
him.
I mean, it was just kind of, they were just taking what was given. And, Xavier Worthy literally didn't have one finger on him in any of his 3 touches, essentially.
Right.
Incredible debut, but I would love to see more targets from him, because he was kind of a non-factor, and we were kind of sweating that receiving prop line. That was one of our call outs, because he had a rushing end around touchdown.
Yeah.
And so we were like, we need a miracle. And then lo and behold, he got over by 1 yard or 2 yards, depending on whatever you got the line at. So to justify a 5th, 6th round pick, which is what he ended up becoming towards the end of best ball season, like, I'd like to see a little bit more volume.
Yeah.
But I think he showed that what he can do with it, which is nice.
Yeah. Dustin said lots of speed between Worthy and Rice. I saw that post. I thought that post was hilarious. You got the guy that runs the 4.21, and then the guy that goes 140 40 miles per hour. I thought that was fucking hilarious. Of course, and Hollywood Brown didn't play this game. I want to see when Hollywood Brown comes back, their splits between all of them. Hollywood Brown is still a very talented player. So I think that, he even puts a damper in some of these numbers. Like everybody wants to be like jumping in for joy with Rashee Rice. Well, next week you could see Rashee Rice get six targets instead of 9, and then go to a couple more to Xavier. Obviously, Travis Kelce's numbers are going to come up. I'm excited about Rashee Rice, don't get me wrong, but I just know that this is probably closer to ceiling game rather than his average type of game.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be really good, and we missed out on a lot of discounted, ownership. We could have been much more. I ended up getting just to the field with him, about 8-9%. But how are we going to predict that? Multiple felonies and dealing what he's dealing with, and we're just like, oh yeah, he's not going to get suspended for that though, because there's been many people that have been suspended for less without something being resolved, namely Zeke getting suspended in the middle of the year just because of just continuous, like, you're being an idiot kind of thing. That it was straight up just stop being stupid. And it was 6 games, and he's not going to get a single game, is what it is. But he's going to be a high-end wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1, low end, because I know Patrick Mahomes didn't really have the best fantasy game, but I think just he's going to have so many more weapons. And if this is his floor game, 291, he only scored 1 time because one was an end around, and then Isaiah Pacheco punched one in as well. He's going to be killer, and I feel very comfortable with him as a QB2, QB1, like we were calling out, even though he only ended up with about 16.9 points. My favorite beat of the entire day, I know we all had a community win. It was great. One of our friends, Nick, he was trying out the sleeper, prop betting. He bet the completions for Patrick Mahomes at 19.5. The very last one to put him over was a pass to himself.
Oh yeah, bounced.
That was what put it over.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
We were laughing about that all day on Friday, but yeah, that was a funny one as well. I wanted to shout out.
Slightly Toves said still debating Neighbors or Higgins. I don't know that Higgins is playing.
Yeah, I think Higgins has already been ruled out.
I would say Neighbors. If Higgins doesn't play, please play Neighbors. That would be my advice right now. I think Neighbors is probably the safer option, anyways, because if Chase is in and stuff, I think that you have to get more of a tournament style game out of Higgins than you do with Neighbors. I'm gonna go to the other game on the slate.
Yeah, so he's not officially out yet, but he is doubtful in the terms of RotoWire, who does projections and stuff like that. It's a free site if you ever want to use that as a reference. They don't even have a projected fantasy score for him. Yeah, they're pretty head on in terms of figuring out who's in and out. Just as another example, there's no official word, but Russell Wilson no longer has a projection. Justin Fields about 16 points, so they're like Justin Fields is going to start.
Is going to play,
and we'll get into all that in a little bit. We'll just kind of go through this game because it was really tough football to watch, especially in the first quarter and a half of this game.
It was not fun, honestly. It was. I felt like I said this. I'm like, well, truly, this is week 1 football. That's what this looks like. Like we're in Brazil. And it's week 1 football. Like they did not look good. Saquon was the only person on the field that I thought was like really ready to play, I guess. I don't know. Josh Jacobs, I know that he had 16 for 84. Well, most of that came on a one play 32-yarder. And in the second half,
he had 8 carries for 6 yards.
Yeah, I was like, okay, well, we picked this wrong. But we also, if y'all were in our Discord, we did say, because we made lines for this game also, we posted them in there. I said, this is a game that is so hard to predict because there are so many mouths to feed.
And it was really hard because all of the Green Bay receivers were less than 7,000. Saquon was less than 95.
Right.
And it's just like there's so many things that you don't know how it's going to end up going. And our lineups were basically dead at halftime because we both faded Jaden Reed in favor of Christian Watson, who had the targets. He had end zone targets, and yet Jordan Love was missing him or, in penalty, what have you.
Jaden Reed. Okay, so let's talk about the Philly defense right now because they add 2 really good rookies and they still have these massive busted coverages. Jaden Reed was so open on like 3 passes, including one that got called back.
That was a another one that got called
Like,
back because they lined up 12 on 12. I'd never seen that before, but both teams lined up 12 on 12. And Philly was the one that was like, "Oh no, we have 12," but the offense was like lined up,
no, we're
ready to
good.
go
We're
with
good.
12 people. But yeah, other than that, like I just didn't expect that both Saquon and Reed were essentially going to score 6 touchdowns
Yeah.
between the two. I would say with Jalen Hurts, other than his big long touchdown to AJ Brown, and then a out of the backfield pass to Saquon, which he doesn't really throw to his running backs that often. I would be concerned if I have some Jalen Hurts shares because he did not look good.
Yeah, he looked
Once
terrible.
again, not taking care of the football. One of the funniest things was there was reports during training camp through 10 days he hasn't thrown a single pick, and I'm just like, honestly, that probably means y'all aren't
Right.
running a good enough rep with him, because turnovers are a good thing to be like, hey, I don't want to go into a season just be like, oh yeah, I was perfect all off season, didn't have a single
Yeah,
mistake,
peaking at the wrong
because
time is
you
not good.
literally had multiple mistakes on your first two drives, and it almost could have blown the door open, but Green Bay unfortunately couldn't take advantage early on.
Yeah. One thing we did have in Discord, or in our Discord on Prize Picks, was some of us did the 3.5 receptions prop, and some of us did the 43.5, which we loved, the 43.5 over for rushing and receiving, which he almost got just rushing for Jaden Reed. The sweat for the receiving prop after this man had already gone for almost 150 yards was crazy. Jaden Reed looked good. If you have Jaden Reed, you should probably start him.
And
but,
I did not. It was really bad.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, this offense is still super unpredictable. And now Malik Willis is probably the starter.
Yeah,
which is scary.
So it was a best case scenario for Jordan Love. He kind of gets twisted up for I believe, the second last play of the game. He sprained his MCL. That probably means a 4 to 6 week injury. The problem is Green Bay's easiest stretch of the season was supposed to be at the beginning, and then it was going to get tough at the end. So you needed to get off to a hot start. Green Bay was both of our last team out. In terms of our playoff prediction, they were both the 8th seed, just missing out in the wild card race. Slightly bold because they're a dark horse Super Bowl contender in a lot of people's eyes. Even Peter Schrager, who, we love him. He killed it at the draft. He's actually predicted the 6 straight years the Super Bowl winner, which has been incredible. His prediction this year was Kansas City versus Green Bay. So that's already a little concerning, at least in his runner-up.
Right.
But yeah, again, neither team looked good.
No.
And Nick asked, are you worried about the Eagles? There's a lot of busted coverages. Yes, there was. It's very concerning. They also had a starter out, and it was also a game in Brazil that nobody wanted to be there. So
yeah,
on a Friday night, it was just a weird game, and I just didn't think it was a good move as a whole. But I would take it with a little bit of grain of salt because of the environment they played in. It's hard to just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to Brazil after a 10-hour flight, and we're just going to look flawless to start. And both teams kind of looked pretty jet lagged.
Right.
Discombobulated. There was penalty after penalty for Green Bay, and then with Philly, multiple turnovers to start the game. Then they kind of settled down a little bit. But yeah, there were some highs, but a lot of lows in this game from both teams. And I would just kind of be going forward. Obviously, Green Bay has an uphill battle. Now hosting Indy with Malik Willis in the lineup, they're probably going to be underdogs at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Philly kind of has a somewhat easier stretch to start the season. So we'll see how they look kind of after that. But I wouldn't be scared off as much as, we saw some Mark Andrews concerns and likely booms and stuff like that. There's a lot more polarizing things to take away from the other game than this game.
One thing, too, that we always talked about before we switch over is, when I played, the biggest thing is the difference between week 1 and week 2 should be your biggest jump in like capability and what you're, like you should look, because you got a full game under your belt and you got really good film from week 1 to week 2 is where you make the most like jump in difference. So I think that gives these teams opportunity to be better. We will go over each game real quick and talk about, totals and spreads and all that stuff. I think it would be good to also, we're going to do a picks video so that we have a full pick'ems for this week. But if you kind of look at these games, low scoring game, Cleveland total 41.5. Cleveland is favored -2.5 at home against Dallas. I'm okay with that. I actually have Dallas winning, but it's
It was
a
a game I
fine.
didn't want to touch. DFS wise, probably not really going to touch it at all,
Right.
other than like special, like afternoon only kind of contests. But I'm really surprised still that Cleveland is
It's
a 2.5
favored.
point
Yeah, I
favorite.
agree.
I didn't want to touch the game at all from a betting perspective. Cleveland's going to be without their left tackle. It sounds like Jack Conklin's going to play, but he's going to be banged up.
Yeah.
That's already not a great recipe. Deshaun was dealing with something towards the end of training camp. I don't know. Also, Denzel Ward had his fifth concussion of his career,
Yeah.
and obviously he's going to play. But that's another kind of concerning thing because their secondary is kind of thinner than it has been in recent years. So I don't know. It's a game we're not really going to prioritize much, but it's going to be Tom Brady's debut in the booth. Hopefully, it's a great game from an aesthetic perspective, but from a DFS perspective, we're not really going to
Yeah.
be
Staying away.
focusing on that one.
Steelers Falcons is a sneaky game that we might focus on a little bit because of the fact that Justin Fields is going to be starting. It's a 41.5 point total, -4 to Atlanta. I'd expect the Steelers to be doing, run heavy, and then later in the game when they're down, they'll have to throw the ball. I will say that this is probably a game we'll get a little bit of.
So with Atlanta on their side, I was surprised to see some ownership. Like Kyle Pitts is one of the three highest projected on tight ends right now. Drake London, I saw one source on X say that he was going to be over 20% owned. I don't really understand why that's a thing. Bijan has an okay matchup. But really, if I'm going to be targeting this game, it's mostly from the Pittsburgh side because Justin Fields is minimum price as a quarterback, essentially. And then you also have his wide receiver one by default because there's no one else. Roman Wilson's out, and it's just Van Jefferson after that. He's 5,700, very easy to get to. But Atlanta has one of the better secondaries in the NFL now. So it's just kind of like I don't want to go too crazy with just going all in with the Pittsburgh stack or even double stack. Pat Freiermuth was somebody that we got kind of a lot of shares of in best ball, and we were a little nervous about it because in the end of preseason, he was really splitting a lot of snaps. But then yesterday, he gets extended 4 for 48. You don't really give that to somebody that's not going to be heavily involved in some way, shape, or form. So he's 4,300, worth a dart throw, but we're pretty much prioritizing tight ends, in better matchups today. Evan Ingram, Dalton Kincaid, Trey McBride, and all of them surprisingly are just much lower owned than we thought they would be.
Yeah. And then the game that matters in our book is Cardinals versus the Bills, 46.5 total, -7 to Buffalo. I think that game is going to be very, very owned, and we are going to get as much of it as possible. Like Cam said earlier, both quarterbacks are going to be lower owned than other gamed quarterbacks, and we don't understand why.
Yeah, so with that game, it's interesting because I just don't understand the ownership at all with that game. I mean, Josh Allen is projected 8% ownership. Cardinals are going to be one of the worst 5 defenses in the entire NFL this year. And right now they're pulling low ownership. We already talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. We talked to weather-wise, it's going to be the windiest game today, but less than 10% chance of showers. I don't really expect any of these guys that we're targeting are just going to be deep ball threats that, okay, maybe they're going to get less targets. We're targeting Dalton Kincaid and Trey McBride. They're going to be underneath. It's not going to be a concern with weather with that one, but the total's gone down. Ownership's low. It's just one of the games that we're going to be very different from the field on.
Yep. And then Tennessee, Chicago, a sneaky game, actually, 44.5. It's one of the top 5 totals. And then Chicago at -4. I think that is a game like we can get a little bit of and target. Lots of options on both sides of the ball, and they should both probably be throwing the ball a lot. So makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's an interesting one just because I really want to know what the ownership is going to be on a lot of things because obviously it's the debut of Caleb Williams and Will Levis. It's his first week 1 start. Obviously he took over at the end of the season for Ryan Tannehill last year. Had some okay production, but now he has a revamped receiving room. D-Hop's going to play, but he's banged up. Calvin Ridley's there, and then obviously they brought in Tony Pollard as well. So sneaky, formidable team. And then with Chicago Ramadunze was one of the biggest misprices on DK. At least he's $4,000. He's priced like 700 below like Brian Thomas, and of all the rookie wide receivers, especially in the first second round, he is by far the cheapest. So he's really easy to get to. I'd expect him to be popular because of that. But with Keenan Allen, even though we love him and we took a ton of him in best ball, he's a little too expensive for us today. It sounded like he was limited throughout the week. He's going to play. I don't expect performance concerns, but it's just not somebody that we're going to get to today. And then with DJ Moore, he's actually cheaper than Keenan Allen, so I would probably prefer him over anybody else in that.
Yeah. And then looking at the next game, and I actually just got a message from Ertz Win Eifert. Do I start Burrow or Anthony Richardson today? I would probably prefer Burrow, but it's a close. That one's actually kind of close. Like these are both kind of games where you could get a blowout with the Bengals. They don't have their top receivers all the way around, so I think that game is interesting for sure. But I would say Burrow.
With me, it's just kind of what's the more affordable stack. So I think Anthony Richardson's $7,000.
Well, no, I think I believe he's talking about in fantasy. Directly
I
in
see.
fantasy. Yes.
Yeah, I would probably side with
Burrow is
I would probably
24.
despite my dislike for Anthony Richardson today in terms of DraftKings, I would probably side with Anthony Richardson.
It's close. I think that's a much closer thing. I think so. Total wise, if you look at the two games are right here, Patriots and Bengals, 40.5 minus 7.
That's the lowest total on the entire slate.
Minus 7 to Cincinnati. So that's like 23, 24. And then for implied totals to the Bengals, the Colts are at minus 3 to Houston at 48.5. So it's about the same 23-ish total. So if you wanted to start either one, I think they're very close. If we had to rank them directly, they'd probably be in the 7, 8, 9 range, in my opinion. So it's truly, I'm going to say Burrow and Cam's going to say Anthony Richardson. But if you wanted to do Anthony Richardson, I'm not against it. You get the upside with the rushing.
If it's especially if it's a standard 4-point passing touchdown, I think it's much closer. But if it is a 6-point passing touchdown, which is becoming more popular, I'd probably side with Burrow in that regard because rushing quarterbacks aren't as bumped up.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about this game here, we're probably not going to play much of it except for if you wanted to play like the Jamar Chase, if you think he is going to get the full run, like 99% of the plays like he normally does, that'd be a guy. But yeah, this game's kind of boring actually. Not
Andre
a game.
Yeah, that's a big talking point we'll get to later.
Yeah, and then the Texans Colts, one of the highest totals other than the next game in Jacksonville and Miami. 48.5 is a very formidable game. It's going to be one of the most popular games on the slate. So
yeah, it's one of the games that the ownership is just so high that we're just kind of taking a stand on every week. You're going to have to take a stand on a game that's going to be popular or a player that's going to be popular and just either be underweight or just way overweight. And that's just a game that we just don't really love because everything's expensive essentially.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier in the week. I'm personally probably going to fade this game altogether and just take whatever happens and go with it. But the next game, Jacksonville, Miami, I am not fading. 49.5 point total. Miami's at home at minus 3.5. They get the the warmer weather where they actually play really well. 85 degrees, as you can see here, and sunny. So Miami, Jacksonville is going to be a game we're going to get a lot of.
Yeah, and then also in terms of injury news, Jalen Ramsey is going to try to give it a go, but he's going to be limited regardless. Their secondary has gotten worse, and all the ownership is on Miami.
Yes,
but there's not much on Jacksonville, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. I kind of had some late in the week love for Trevor Lawrence and some stackable options because everybody's under 55 other than Travis Etienne. So it's an interesting game to talk about for sure.
Yep. And then a game that we're not going to get much of, except for we are going to pound the Panthers defense. We're going to have as much Panthers defense as we can get in any slate we can get them because we do not believe in the Saints. And we think that the Panthers could actually win this game. I believe you picked them directly. Outright. I picked New Orleans, but I am not comfortable in any way with this game.
Yeah, so. I'm lone wolfing it, but there's no good vibes from the Saints. I just don't understand it. Alvin Kamara, despite not really practicing throughout the entire training camp, is like one of the 3 highest owned running backs. Stochastic, a popular DFS content creator, they were just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be 30%,
Alvin.
35% of Alvin.
Yeah.
No,
No way.
no chance.
Yeah.
Last year they were actually really good against running backs. They just allowed touchdowns.
Yes.
Like one of the prime example is Derrick Henry was one of the most popular guys, and we faded him because we were like, they're averaging, giving up like 4.1 yards a carry.
Hmm.
I don't really see and then he scored 3 times, but he
Yeah.
had like 3 yards to carry. So it was one of those where it's just like, you're right, but you're wrong. And we think just the Panthers are going to take a step over the Saints this year.
They're better on offense. And last year, the problem was they had terrible field position the whole time.
Mhm.
So if you're getting the ball in the 50 every time, you're just going to be like, okay, sooner or later, we're going to bust. Like, we're going to break.
Being a 2-15 team and only allowing 24 points a game
Is awesome.
Is honestly one of the more impressive things that I can think about when you're just a terrible team.
Right.
Yeah, when you're starting at the 50-yard line or in your own territory every single time, you're going to give up points eventually, and that's kind of what happened last year. Their defense isn't terrible.
No.
Obviously, Brian Burns is no longer there, but it's probably an average to slightly above average defense that probably will make them better than most people want to believe right now.
Yeah. The next game is actually kind of sneaky. It's a 41.5 point total, but I truly think this is a little sneakier game. It's a nice weather game. And the Vikings could put up 50 points or, I mean, if you wanted to play this game, there's a lot of options basically because you have, of course, Justin Jefferson and then Malik Neighbors on the other side. We talked about Neighbors earlier in the chat. Just a lot of options for this game. And I think you could make solid lineups with secondary stacks.
Yeah. I was thinking this was going to be a very, sneaky low owned game, pivoting in terms of options with Malik Neighbors and Justin Jefferson. And both of them are some of the 10 highest owned receivers. And that's basically the only pieces I want to get to in this entire game.
I did not know that. That's crazy.
But both secondaries are atrocious. And
yes.
We're going to be targeting each of these secondaries all season long in terms of DFS, redraft, whatever you want to do. So sneaky game in terms of that. I just don't know if I'm going to get to anybody other than JJ or Malik Neighbors. Jordan Addison sounds like he is going to play, though, so that is a positive thing for him. He was dealing with a high ankle sprain from a couple weeks ago. I would expect him to be limited, not really get into him at all on DFS when he's 5,300, but it's a game worth mentioning for sure.
And then the Raiders-Chargers, probably a game we're not going to mention very much because it's just less than 40 point total.
That's actually the lowest total.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is really low. But at the same time, it's just not a game that, I'm a Raiders fan and I don't necessarily want to get to this game. It's a high for the Chargers. They run the ball a ton. So it's going to be, lots of grinding out the clock. And the Raiders don't necessarily, I don't know what's going on with Devontae Adams. I don't know what to do with everybody. The only guy I'm probably going to get to in this whole game is Brock Bowers.
That's what I was just about to mention. The only thing that really interests me at all in terms of any kind of fantasy today is we are heavy on Brock Bowers and his over. It is dropped down to 36, 37 yards now. And we were feeling great with it when it was 42 and it stayed that way. And it dropped 10 yards because he was dealing with a foot soreness issue and he was already cleared when Wednesday started and he still dropped. So I'm completely comfortable with him today. And that's the only thing I really care about with that game today.
And then the Broncos Seahawks, one of our sneaky games of the week. We're going to be getting a lot of those guys for the Seahawks. And then, of course, the running back for the Broncos is one of our guys that we put a big stamp on earlier in the offseason that everybody was saying was not going to be very good. So
I'm going to make Emery Cuzzy very uncomfortable with the amount of Kenneth Walker and Javonte Williams that we're going to have today. We'll get to and JSN. Yes, it's going to be he's going to be sweating a little bit, but I feel great about those three. It's a very interesting game environment, sneaky game. It's one of my favorite 5 favorite spread bets this week is Denver +6. We'll see how that goes.
I actually picked Denver outright. Yeah, I picked Denver outright to win this game. So that's one of my weird ones.
It's a very interesting game that I actually kind of want to see, like the entirety of the game. But yeah.
And then Washington versus the Bucks. We'll have some of this game also. Because you get the rushing upside on the Jaden Daniels side. He's very interesting. And then the Bucks actually have really good bringbacks. So both option, this game is an option we're going to be talking about also.
So the only thing with this game is that it's the biggest chance of rain on the entire slate, but there's no downpour that's going to go throughout the game. but that only helps the rushing upside of Jaden Daniels, who's only
Right.
5,700. He's a very big bargain right now, but his ownership is going to reflect that as well. And then Terry McLaurin is going to be one of the highest owned receivers because he is all they got, and he's
Yeah. Nothing
5,600.
else.
And then it's going to be interesting with the Bucks. I want to see their ownership because Rashad White, 6,300 is very affordable.
Mhm.
Mike Evans is probably my preference if I can get to him as a bring back. He's 73, and then Chris Godwin is very cheap at I believe 58.
Yes.
And then Jalen McMillan, if you want a dart throw, he looked great in preseason, and he should be in all the 3 receiver sets. He looked great, and there's a lot of buzz about him.
Yep.
In his debut.
And then the primetime slates, we'll get on to, we'll of course talk about those in a like more intense detail. We're going to do a bunch of special stuff like that. But the Rams and Lions, one of the biggest games, fun games to watch. It's going to be just like fireworks, and it's going to be something, you want to get, Sunday Night Football, man. Like, it's here.
What's interesting is this is the highest total game on the entire weekend.
Mhm.
I actually really like the under on this game.
That's fair.
I don't think it's going to be a slobber knocker of a just shootout. And when they met in the wild card round last year, it was kind of the same thing where I believe it was a 1-point game, 24-23, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so.
But it was like a 59-point total because both defenses weren't great towards the end of the season. Yeah, obviously, in terms of DFS, we're not going to be talking about this game because it's not on the main slate. If you are on FanDuel, it is. And the only thing I'll mention, because we are not going to be covering FanDuel, is hammer Amon-Ra St. Brown if you're going to be building lines on that
absolutely. Side. And then let's do some quick. We'll do this really quick. That we create this page. Cam created it, and basically we take some of the best in the business and we compare ourselves. We are 2-0. We got both KC and Philly right, which is awesome, of course. And then, just to run through this pretty quickly, we took, a lot of teams the same. Atlanta beating the Steelers, Bills beating Cardinals, Bears over Titans, Cincinnati beating the Patriots. We should expect that one. Houston, Miami. This is the first game that's a little different. You can see that Carolina was picked by Cameron. Sorry, let me scroll up so you can see it. And you can tell that, that's the only one that's a little weird on that whole game.
Yeah, so we have 2 games different from each other the entire week, and it's Carolina, New Orleans, and then Seattle, Denver. But it's kind of funny because we're in the same boat of just like we're lone wolfing on each pick, and the other person doesn't feel comfortable betting the favorite.
Right.
So I don't bet him or blame him one bit. I actually have like the Denver +6 is one of my favorite 5 spread bets of the week, and yeah, we'll get with that as well because every week, usually if you can bat 50%, you're an expert in terms of betting against the spread. But what we wanted to kind of trial and do this year is just like if we were just going to give you our favorite 5 every week, how well would we do? And so it doesn't have to be the same game, but just each of our favorite 5 bets of the week, and we'll just kind of see how that goes out. Obviously, my favorite two of my favorite bets were games that already happened. Philly at 1.5 and became 2.5, and I still bet it. And then Kansas City at -3. It came down to a toe, but it worked out.
Oh yeah, it was tough. It was close.
And then Emery obviously picked that one as well.
Yeah. We felt pretty good about Kansas City, like we said earlier. But the first game, like we said, Carolina, New Orleans. That's the ones that we have different. But Minnesota over the Giants, Chargers over the Raiders. My first one is, and it's a +6 bet, which would be pretty cool. Actually, if you take the money line on Denver right now, I don't know what it is, but that's a pretty big bet for that game. I have Denver winning it. I think that's just a much closer game than we're letting on with this +6 number.
Hopefully, it's just some beautiful fireworks
by the running backs.
Yeah.
Dallas over the Browns. We both picked that game like that. Tampa Bay over the Commanders and in Tampa Bay. Detroit winning that game. And then we both, which is actually, look at this like across the board. We both take the Jets. I think that is an awesome bet, obviously, because I'm a big Jets guy right now. Cam has a little bit of pullback, but that's okay. We both go over San Francisco, who has a ton of issues going on in their
they're one of the most banged up teams. Obviously, Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk returned this week from respective either extension or contract restructures. But that doesn't change the fact that they're just kind of entering the season on a low note. Plus, a Super Bowl hangover from the runner-up has been a thing in big ways before, especially from the NFC side. So the Jets, from a PFF perspective, the number one ranked defensive line, number one ranked linebacking core,
Yep.
number one ranked secondary.
Yep.
And so one of my favorite bets, we're not doing over unders for totals, but they were at 44.5. And I was like, this game is not going to have both teams scoring 20 points. So unless this is a blowout and then the other team salvages a little bit, I don't see a way that that game goes over. And we both feel better about the Jets right now in week one. So that was something that we both, kind of lone wolf together.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about it. But and then just talking about our spread bets, of course, we took anybody that we thought was going to be an underdog to win. Kansas City was already first one. I had Atlanta at -3.5. I believe they have moved to -4. So that would change a little bit. I don't think I would change my bet because I would have to go through these. If I had to pick 5, I'm more comfortable with Atlanta than probably these other totals. Chicago at -4 over Tennessee. I just really like Chicago, and I think they're just a lot better than Tennessee.
And once again, I want to reiterate a fun fact is that the last number one overall pick to win his debut start in week one was David Carr back in 2002.
Oh, for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, it's been a minute, and Caleb Williams would be the first person in over 20 years. I believe I don't even know if he was born when that game happened. But that was the first game of the Texans era. That's how long it's been. That was their first game as a franchise, and they beat the Dallas Cowboys when they were.
That was Mario Williams' draft year, right? The first one?
No, Mario Williams was 06. David Carr was their first ever.
First ever pick. Yeah, you're right. No, I'm.
And
tripping.
I feel bad because he was more talented than his brother, and his brother's been in the league for a decade.
Absolutely.
But he was behind the worst offensive line you could ever imagine.
Happens, man. Yeah. But yeah, so these are our picks. If y'all want to take a screenshot and put them in, you're more than welcome. But yeah, we're gonna move on. We're gonna start talking about main slate. That's the place where everybody wants to. Oh, again,
all that money.
Look at that. Let's do this again. Yeah. I must have already done that. Oh, here's some lines. Let's create.
That was some of our first looks that we did. If you checked out our first look that we released on Wednesday, we'll be releasing first looks every week in the middle of the week, and then we'll be talking the main for the majority of our Sunday mornings every.
Yeah, we have about 40 minutes allotted to this right now. Got 17 people in here. 13 likes. If y'all could go like, that would be awesome. We're gonna go through main. This is where it gets interesting, gets exciting. Kind of going through, we're going to build lineups as like from the start. We'll just build lineups off the rip, I think is the best way to do it. And talk about, we're going to talk about our biggest stands, games we're going to build around. We're going to review, some of the lines that we made and make adjustments based on new injuries and new things that we expect. And then, we're going to build some lineups with y'all. We're going to let y'all talk.
One of the biggest things that we did not talk about in our first look is Andre Yoshivas, who is the slot receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. He is minimum price at $3,000. Last time we talked with you guys on this slate, T. Higgins was healthy, and it sounded like Jamar Chase was going to play. Now T. Higgins is not going to play.
Right, doubtful.
And Jamar Chase, even if he does play, he will be limited. Enter the guy who ran all the slot snaps with the ones throughout the preseason. He is going to be one of the chalkiest guys, but he's just, to me, a free square that you just got to click on. I'm going to be much overweight to the field. Wouldn't say go 100% owned on him, but, I made about 9 lines, and he's in a good portion of them.
Absolutely. We did not have the opportunity to make a line with him last time.
So, yeah, it'll be fun to do a build just as we go with him, just because he just makes everything work.
Bang. We'll start there.
Even, there's certain times when, and especially week one, obviously we want to, try to build lines with rules like double stack, bring back a secondary stack. But there's certain guys when it's Andre Yoshivas at minimum price, Justin Fields, a running style quarterback at minimum price at quarterback. There's certain things where it's just like, okay, we'll break some rules today because of the environments or the plays. Now, over time, more often than not, when there's not misprices, we're going to be, following more rules and probably just be doing 2 to 3-ish games for an entire lineup. But we're going to be a little bit kind of all over the place because of all the value that we have on this slate.
Yeah, and if you watched our first video that we put out for this slate, like we talked about how to build lines and what you should do. And if you're a beginner, like these are the things that you should follow because it's, the way to build a line. But we done this for so long, like sometimes we are like, oh, well, why not switch this guy in for this price and not get a secondary or a third stack and just be like, we like this guy more. You talked about it with a guy we'll talk about in a minute in JSN. You'd rather have him over everybody in his range of pricing, even if it stacks the games and stuff and makes it a perfect line
Yeah,
correlation wise.
I mean, and I was pleasantly happy when PFF agreed he had one of the better matchups
Yes.
against the corner that he's facing. Apologies for not remembering his name on the top of my head, but JSN is going to have such a opportunity this year to, bring you a return on his price. In
Yes.
terms of ADP, he was an 8th rounder the entire season. A lot of content creators that we follow and listen to, get ideas off of and whatnot. We're actually pumping Tyler Lockett,
Yeah,
who has
crazy.
been banged up, and it
Old.
sounds like he's gonna play, but it doesn't matter. Like, he's 32, and we expect that at minimum the production from last year when Tyler Lockett was a wide receiver 32 and JSN was a wide receiver 45.
Yes.
At minimum they're gonna swap, and then JSN has more upside from that. I'm very excited about him this year, and then this week being a good matchup. He's somebody that I want to prioritize today.
Well, shoot. I mean, every guy we talk about, let's just throw him in the line and look at it. We can obviously make a line right here from this. We're gonna start by, if you put a quarterback in, even if he's a running style quarterback, please pick one pass catcher. Justin Fields last year, best game of the year. Thursday night football.
Against the Commanders.
Yeah, yep. I'm at a dance hall with all my buddies, and we're watching this game, and I have Justin Fields and DJ Moore on the same team in fantasy, and we're just freaking out. We started DJ Moore as our captain that week. 49 points out of that guy. No one else did anything. It was just the two of them.
And it's a similar wide receiver room.
Yeah.
You have George Pickens, who we can debate on who's more talented between the two, but the premise still stands. It's George Pickens, and then it's Van Jefferson.
Right.
Who's never really had a fantasy relevant season or consistent stretch for that matter. And then essentially Pat Freiermuth is the Cole Kmet on the team. Essentially it's the same spot. So if you are going to play Fields, just throw in George Pickens and be happy about it.
Right. And then I'm going to put the defense in. Now, we built 5 people in, and we have $7,250 per player. Yeah. It's probably one of the more uncomfortable because we have been spending down at running back so much. But I think that's something the field will probably be doing also. Just kind of looking at some guys, though, just talking through things. We want to get an Atlanta guy. Who do you want? Well, you could put Bijan if you want to Bijan, 7,700. You could go and get Drake London.
It's going to be one of the chalkier receivers that I was shocked by, but he's going to be over 20% owned. I think he's only 6,000, so it's reasonable to pick him up on the roster, but it's just there's so many better receivers in matchups that's just like the 6K range as a whole. I'm not really getting to from the receiver perspective in this week.
Fair enough. Who would you like to put in this lineup? Just because we're building this slowly.
To bring back JSN, I would like to jump over to running back, create more average money, and go with Javonte Williams. I'm just very high on him. Seattle had some of the highest totals to running backs last year. Their defense got even worse. And like I said, it's a sneaky game that I want to get to today. And there's a lot of lines that are going to consist of at least either JSN or Kenneth Walker today.
Absolutely. I'm going to go to tight end. It's pretty easy. You have 2 guys, in my opinion. It's both of these guys at the top, not Hawkinson, who's out. Don't play the guy that's got the out tag.
Heal up soon, please.
Yeah, for sure. I need him because he's in my IR spot. I think I'm going to go McBride. I think McBride is the guy.
What's crazy to me is neither tight end is projected to have 10% ownership. And we feel like there's really going to be less than 10% of our lines that are going to not have either.
Right.
We love both of them. We love the matchups. And I just don't get away from it if there's value that allows you to get up there, because not often are we going to be able to just every single line spend 6,000 at tight end.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, we're going to have a ton of money left over, but it's fine if you're building a lineup on tournament style. I was thinking we go the Jacksonville Miami stack with the high paid up guy.
Yeah. So with this line, because I want to build a look with, the 2 highest games that we're prioritizing, I would say let's take out Pickens and Fields.
Yeah.
We'll build a line later with them, but really I'm not going to play either of them by themselves.
That's fair.
It's just going to be together as a tandem by default. So yeah, I would like to like you said, do a stack of Miami or Jacksonville. And Trevor Lawrence is less than 10% owned today, and he has a lot of interesting options. So I'd say let's go there, and then there's a lot of great bringbacks.
Let me go find that game. Let's get them all together. Where are you? There you are. Let's go ahead and put Jacksonville, Miami in there. All right. Talking about guys that Cam's going at. You can get Christian Kirk. You can get Brian Thomas Jr. You can get Gabe Davis. You can get at tight end if you wanted to go 2 tight ends. You could go Evan Ingram. I would probably
I think that's
go
so viable today.
Yes,
Going 2 tight ends, whether it's McBride, Kincaid, as just a mini stack,
right.
or if it's Evan Ingram plus one of them. I think it's a very interesting option today because they're the 2 highest totals or 2 highest games that we're going to prioritize today. And it's going to be very different because very few lineups typically are constructed with double tight end.
Yep. I'm going to put Christian Kirk in there. I think he's my favorite option. And then I think you want 2, right? You want to double stack this game?
Yeah. So it's going to be hard to not put Tyreek Hill in.
I know. I agree.
As a
I want to
bring back. So that leaves 8,000. ETN, I think, is one of the few people that you can actually double your. I would never do a running back and tight end double stack with the quarterback. That's a little kind of too weird and out there. But a receiver plus a tight end or a receiver plus a running back is very viable. Travis Etienne caught a passing touchdown from Trevor Lawrence in the preseason.
Right.
He's always been a pass catching back that has 60, 70 target upside throughout the season. He is a guy that is on, I believe, the thumbnail for this video.
Yes.
So, got to throw him in there just because.
Why not, right?
And then the other interesting thing is, I did mention, Javonte. We do have a lot of room. Do you want to maneuver around a little bit?
Yeah, let's see what 800 will do because I know what I'm pretty sure there's a guy you like, but we already have a Seattle player. But you've been talking about possibly putting 2 Seattle players in your lineups.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be very, very interesting today. But there's just a lot of receivers in the mid-tier range between 56, whereas Terry McLaurin, and then all the way down to 47, which is Brian Thomas Jr. That range there's so many great options in that sweet spot. And then another option that I don't really have any of today so far that could probably change, but Rachaad White against Washington, he's a $5 running back. 20 opportunities. He's a home favorite.
Catches the ball. Yeah, he's going to get 20 touches today. And if he's against Washington, you might say, hey, their defense was awful last year. Why not?
Yeah.
I did want to say something, though, that's in the chat. The Gale made the most money he's ever won on the DJ Moore captain line against Washington. Yes, we were all over that. We were probably hanging out with you at the top because we were right there. So many unknowns today. Good day for a takedown. Absolutely. Please. Yeah, I would love that.
The best I've ever done typically is week 1 to the slate. It's just so many unknowns, and it's way easy to get different when it's just like there's value everywhere. And you're telling me that Anthony Richardson is the chalkiest quarterback. All right, let's fade that game. And there's 3 other games that could score just as high, if not more. Anthony Richardson looked awful in the preseason. And then everybody's like, oh, but I'll still throw 20% ownership to him.
That's crazy. I know.
No, sir. Not for me.
I actually I like this line. I'm not against it.
I don't mind it at all.
We got a double stack, an unconventional double stack. This is a very tournament-esque line. We're playing if you're going to play this line, it's not going to be for cash games. Cash games are your single entries, your double ups. Even sometimes I consider cash games 3 maxes because of the fact that, you're still playing like 66% of the same players. These are 20 max, 150 max type of lines right here.
And then with NFL, I mean, it's kind of one of those things that usually with most sports, whether it's basketball, we don't play much baseball, but we play a lot of UFC, even play some NASCAR, vroom, vroom. And you want to get some remainder left to be different. In the NFL, because there's such big slates every week and so many ways to get different, you can really easily just have a not duped line, even having 0 remainder. I bet you there might be somebody that has this line just because there's not really a true tournament play other than JSN that we're doing.
Right.
But it's interesting nonetheless.
It's also, but you just don't see quarterbacks stacked with their running backs very often. And so that's why
Gail, you are about to be my best friend because
You
NASCAR
have no
sweats
idea.
you have no idea the age that has gone on in the
Kyle,
final 10 laps of races.
Kyle Larson wrecking every time he's the best option is awesome always. But yeah, so in this line, stacking your running back and your quarterback is not normal. That gives you a difference with the field, obviously, to start. I'm down to submit this and go to the next line.
Let's go.
Let me get the enter.
And while he does that, I want to talk to the chat. We got 14 watching. We appreciate you. If you haven't already liked the video, subscribe if you haven't. Let's do a community line. Let me know, spam the chat a little bit. Who is a quarterback that you want to prioritize in this next line that we play?
No, not again. Hold on. Sorry. I'll have to change that later. I need to go.
That's fine.
Lobby. There you go. I'll have to switch that one, but let's go get another line.
Yeah. So once again, who's the quarterback that we're building around in this line?
Create. All right.
There you go.
I know. I'm gonna get it, guys. The desktop versus the phone are a different. They're different beasts completely. Yeah, the phone is so much better. It's crazy. No one yet. Let's see. I know y'all want to build some crazy lines. So tell me something.
While we're waiting, just want to talk. My highest owned, individual play on the entire slate today, and it's going to be very fun and interesting because they're less than 5% owned. Is the Carolina defense?
Yes.
Once again, I'm picking them to upset the New Orleans Saints today. Which, if you don't believe that, that's cool. But the biggest thing with DFS is even if it's uncomfortable, more often than not, spinning down on defense really works out for you. Unless it's a situation where, somebody last minute is out and you're starting against Tim Boyle or,
right.
No disrespect to Tim Boyle, but that caliber of quarterback that just, journeyman, that prone to turn the ball over, what have you. That's rare. That's the only occasion I'll ever even spend up in the, above 3,500, let alone. But there's really no options between 28 to 35 that I'm really even
right. Absolutely.
I can even make an argument for today. And then also, touchdowns are random. So you could have a guy or a defense that gives up 30 points, but they got the kick return touchdown.
Yeah.
And all you need is like 4 points for that to work out.
I'm a big believer in spending less than $3,000 on my defense. But the first team that we got, and of course, guys, we're gonna go through our ownership and kind of talk about things. I see a lot of Allen and Murray. Those are our most exposed guys. Yeah. I don't think we've really made that clear based on what we've done so far. But truly, the games that we're attacking are that Buffalo Arizona game as much as possible. I'll show y'all, and we'll build a double stack, because I can make double stacks on both sides that I'm very excited about.
And I'm even okay with, because of the way and style Josh Allen is, because he has 15 rushing touchdown upside as a quarterback this season, that you can single stack him. Kyler is a little different. He can scramble and get yards, but he doesn't really have the rushing touchdown upside that Josh Allen does. Yeah. So, and on top of that, his receiving options are very clear cut. It's Michael Wilson, it's Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison, and if you want to get frisky, Greg Dortch. That's essentially what it is. All of them are essentially affordable, other than Marvin Harrison, but that just makes him a lower owned tournament play.
Dustin said triple stack.
So
Murray.
I know Nick was first to the call, but we got 2 Murray mentions. So I would say let's start with the Arizona stack.
Oh, okay. Skip out on the Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
man.
we'll do We'll do a Washington stack in a little bit.
Yeah,
sorry,
we do.
Nick, we will. I promise.
I actually have a Washington stack. It's one of my games that I want to get to.
That's another single stack kind of vibe. Again, we're breaking some rules today. And
you get a Russian upside. Yeah. Quarterback. Why not?
Now that's the only time I would ever do a single stack, is somebody that can also run one in.
Yes,
they're just bare minimum price. But basically, all the quarterbacks we're prioritizing: Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Justin Fields, Jaden Daniels. What do they all do? They're dual threat quarterbacks that can, all of them are probably going to score a rushing touchdown today, and it's going to be awesome.
Right. I will say this: I'm putting Marvin Harrison in almost all of my stacks with Kyler Murray, and I love stacking the most too expensive options for him. But with that being said, Dustin said Marvin Harrison Jr. There he is.
Yeah. That was in our part 2 of our prop release that we released yesterday. If you wanted to check that out, one of our hammers was Marvin Harrison Jr. At 59.5. It's been bumped to 63 now. So I hope you got in on it, but we still probably feel good enough to click it if you just need a last thing in. But yeah, that's a guy that we're prioritizing today.
The other guy, I will be double stacking this line. We'll try to follow some rules with Kyler. I think Trey McBride makes a lot of sense. We've got a ton of him. I'm not against. Who would you like your bring back to be in this game? That's the real
Well, I
question.
was wanting it to be Dalton Kincaid,
Perfect.
however, but here's the thing: what I mentioned earlier is that I think it's viable to double stack tight ends
That's what I
from
was
today,
gonna say.
and so I don't think anybody, if both tight ends of Trey McBride and Dalton Kincaid are going to be under 10% owned, if that's wrong, I'm not surprised at all. But if that is accurate, nobody's going to have both of them, and I think that's very viable on the slate.
Well, then
It's
let's
just going
do
to
it.
be a tight end shootout.
Let's
Why not?
go. Let's go. Yeah. So this is our first game. Um, one cool thing, like we talked about, is like they mispriced some players because this came out 2 months ago, basically. So we do have the fact that we can always put Yoshivas in and save all the money in the world if we wanted to go up at running back, or get a really cool stack
Yeah.
here.
So
So
with this build so far, beautiful start. I think I want to get some Jacksonville Miami love in here.
perfect.
What is two player one on each side that you're thinking about on this one?
Well, Tyreek Hill, of course, is a guy that I would love to get to, but the other guy that is also the thumbnail, which is always important to look at those thumbnails. I like Achan this week
Oh, this
as
is a dusty line for
oh my
sure.
gosh, Dustin, get
A
ready.
double Arizona stack with an Aggie at running back.
Yep.
That's as good as it
Why
gets,
not,
man.
right?
You better be grinning from ear to ear, man.
So that's my pick for the Miami side
Okay.
of it.
Well, you know what? Let's put in Yoshivas real quick. I just want to see what the remainder would be for the final two spots, and then
Oh, I'm spelling it
that's how it's
wrong now.
pronounced.
Now
Huh?
I'm spelling it. Hey, I love the little green
It's almost too
dinosaur.
much for me to handle. I mean, it's like we got to make the viewers happy, man. We
Yeah,
have to. All right, so yeah, putting him in leaves
gives us
about
a lot of money.
6,100 remainder. Essentially, do you want to go cheap receiver, high end running back? Because
I
obviously, if we
don't.
brought back ETN, the other thumbnail, that would leave about 5,000. Or we could go. That's a beautiful thing.
I'm so excited about this.
But you could go the other route of just going cheap running back,
Yes.
and then I don't know 7,000 range who you think about. Obviously, Mike Evans is up there.
Well,
But you probably can't get to a Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, who are going to be two of the most popular spin
right.
today.
So you get about 6,800, I believe, because we'd probably put in someone like Javonte, and you'd be sitting around this weird, gross range. You could go maybe DJ Moore, but I'm not loving that range at all.
Yeah, I think let's go with ETN.
Yeah, let me
Just double thumbnail. Like,
why
let's
not?
just
Let's
make it all
start it
make
right.
sense.
Let's start it
And
right.
then obviously, if we're 51 left,
That's
leaves my buddy,
where are
Mr.
you?
JSN. The only thing with this lineup that is kind of worth mentioning is that it is 8 players in the 12 o'clock game.
Yep.
So, are you comfortable with that? Do you want to try to force a second one in?
I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, I like all the players here, and I think our upside is so cool because you get the double tight end, you get the Marvin Harrison, of course, double stack, and then you get two of my favorite running backs on the slate. If you're going to pay up a running back, these are the two guys I want.
Right.
Everybody else, and I'll go to running back real quick. I don't necessarily want anybody else up at the top, really.
No, I agree.
So,
Somebody brought up JT as like one of the top plays today, and
no.
Houston was. So I don't know how they turned it around as well, because we for 2-3 years in a row we're just every week starting.
You got it. I gotta get the charger for this. But
Gotcha. So yeah, Houston 2021 through 2022, like they were dead last by a big margin against running backs. So we targeted them every week. Last year they flipped to being one of the best against running backs. They were middle of the pack in terms of DFS, but it wasn't efficient in terms of the players that they were playing against.
Right.
So I don't think he's one of the best plays today. Bijan, again, I don't know. I would love him this year, but I just want to wait for him. James Cook is somebody that is very interesting. Obviously, you look at that 30-second against running backs, and it looks really pretty. It's a high total game. He's somebody that we don't really have today that's kind of uncomfortable. Alvin Kamara, I mentioned earlier, that is apparently going to be one of the more popular guys on the slate. But yeah, the only other thing I was going to mention, if you want to go this route, in terms of a flip, would be you could go Kenneth Walker and Christian Kirk instead of JSN and ETN. Which pair would you prefer? It's the same two teams, but just two different guys.
I you want to no, I think I prefer this way.
That's
I
fine.
think this has the higher floor, but I think the other one, obviously Christian Kirk is a very good football player, don't get me wrong.
Right.
And if he is, he's just worry about him, man, because he might only run 60% of the routes. Because if he's not in, the two receiver sets, like that scares me a little bit. I'd like to see with him more than anything, I think, is why.
And this kind of core kind of build, this is a very interesting route if you want to go early only. Like I said, if you go at 8-1 build in terms of early games versus late games, you can find a replacement for that one guy, JSN, and then easily have a 9-12 o'clock build, and then we can submit an early only that looks very, very similar to this line.
Exactly. I will say, with this line, I would like, I don't hate this line. Like, I like everybody in this line. Like, and of course, Andre Yoshivas makes it right. Like, he's the one that's making these lines right, because
he's the glue.
Every single player I love because of him. Like, even if you don't love him, like, say he gets a floor game, say he gets like 6 points. Okay, so he went 2x on his whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody else has the opportunity to break the slate.
And the thing
that makes me excited.
The thing is, you can have 1 to 2 guys that don't return value, and your line still does very well. So if you go minimum price, and that guy, say he gets 0, and it's just a complete whiff.
We're wrong.
1, he's one of the highest owned guys, so it affects a lot of people. And 2, if that 0 made all this other stuff work, and ETN and HN both go for 25 plus, and Marvin Harrison has a 2 touchdown game, and that double tight end stack works, and it's so unique and different, and JSN has his breakout game,
you're not mad at this at all.
Yeah, exactly. So don't overthink when you're in the early. Like I said, I wouldn't go 100%, and I would try to, if you're doing a lot of lines, find a way to, because there are value options. Like I said, Rome Odunze, it's not somebody we're getting to today, but he's 4,000. If it's Rome versus Iosivas or Yoshivas, I'm sorry, I probably prefer Rome. It's just kind of like, if you can afford that, and then what route you want to go, because we're not going to do a ton of lines that are just going to have both of our thumbnails, both expensive running back. We're probably going to try to get some Tyreek and Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, this next line will be very different than this. We'll probably do that a Josh Allen line, and then we'll probably do a Jaden Daniels line and get out.
We got to make
then get
Nick
to
happy,
some others,
and then we'll get to some special slates, early only, afternoon only, prime time,
right?
All that good stuff.
I'll submit so that we can keep this. I want this thing to like let me submit and keep making lines. I don't know why it doesn't do that like everywhere else, But so we'll talk about the next one. Do you want to do the Jaden Daniels, or do you want to do the other?
Let's do Jaden Daniels. I want to fit some 3 o'clock game.
All right.
Players in.
Fair enough. There's some other lines we talked about earlier.
All right.
So Jaden Daniels, we're gonna put every time we're putting the Panthers defense in, guys. They save you all the money. Don't forget. Like,
I don't even care. Like, I'm just doing it today.
It does, yeah.
And if you want to paint the picture that Joe Burrow might struggle because T. Higgins is out, Chase might be limited, or if he's even out, they're only 200 more, and you want to sprinkle them in.
Fair enough.
Fine.
Yeah,
I don't care. But Carolina, I just think makes too much sense, and we're just going to hammer and just take that big stand today. So we're going to make Nick happy with a Jaden Daniels line. Who's your favorite Bucs bring back?
That's
Washington.
That's easy. It's Mike Evans. But do you want to start? How about we start the rest of the line and then come back to either Mike Evans or Rachaad White?
Okay.
Do you think, or would you rather start like put him in and then look?
No, let's put him in and look, just because since we're not really getting to him other than a Washington stack,
right?
I want to see what's remaining, and then also if we're just gonna force the same tight ends in
over
and over again.
We are.
Well, because
why not?
Evan Ingram's in a positive game environment. He is the most popular of the 3 that we're targeting, but I don't think I'm comfortable taking 0% of him. So that's why I just wanted to kind of keep him out there, because he's the cheapest of them too.
Yes, he's 5,500. The guys that were playing at tight end are Trey McBride, Kincaid, Ingram, Bowers. Bowers is down here at 4,500. We talked about him a little bit, but really, I just don't. I think punting tight end this week is just not the option
It's
that I
not the
want to
move,
go with.
and it could be because of how deep the tight end, I guess, room as a whole is this year. But this week, it's because of all the value elsewhere. You're able to spend up and not feel gross about it.
Right.
Because usually when we're in years past, when it was just either George Kittle or Travis Kelsey, and you got to spend up to $7,000, you're like double punting at receiver, and it's
Mhm.
just feels yucky. Today, you don't even have to feel gross about it because Yoshi is going to kill. And then you could go double cheap running back, you can go double cheap receiver. But tight end is the one that I'm just like, that's the position that I'm just like,
You
no
kind of
matter
have to.
what, the floor is Kyle Pitts to me today. Or I guess you can throw in Brock Bowers as well, but
What?
it's
Yeah,
not a game environment
$100
that
difference.
yeah.
Yeah. Which tight end would you like to start with? It's easier to get other players for Arizona, I think,
Okay, then let's go Kincaid.
unless you're really comfortable with like Curtis Samuel.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Not today. I mean, if you want a difference, and this is kind of why I don't want to force a double stack for Josh Allen. We'll talk about that in a second. But Curtis Samuel's receiving line is 27 yards.
Yeah.
JSN is the same price, and it's 18 yards higher.
Yep.
It's like 3 fantasy points higher. So there's a huge projection difference, and then also the matchup's better for JSN, and the targets are more clear cut. Tournament play, sure, Curtis Samuel, throw him in there, but I just don't think you need to today.
And then for the next guy, we're going to talk about an Arizona player. Which Arizona player do you want to get to?
Well, you said you were more comfortable with Arizona players, so I'm going to let you pick that one.
Well, I mean, I just think I can get to Marvin Harrison and be happy.
You think you can?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I think we can.
Well, that's going to be interesting with the Jacksonville-Miami game.
It's also going to make the Washington-Tampa Bay game interesting, too. We could put a Yoshibas in, though. But
yeah,
I maybe here.
No. Go Yoshi. And how much is that left? That is 6,500 a player.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not able to. It's going to be a single play if you go with one of the running backs from the Jacksonville-Miami game.
Yes.
And then you'd have to go down to like Kenneth Walker, which I would love.
What about Tampa Bay? So we could, like I said earlier, is
single stack, double bring back.
Or either that, or we could swap it from Mike Evans and get $1,000 more and do something with that. What do you think?
Yeah, we can do that.
I do want Mike Evans.
No. We already made a line with Rachaad White. Let's do a line with Mike Evans and be happy, and it'll work out for us.
Okay, so who do you want first at running back?
Let's go with. Are you more comfortable with HN or ETN today?
Ooh.
I know what Dusty's answer is, but
probably ETN. I'm more comfortable with ETN, but I think HN has obviously the slate breaking.
So basically, it comes down to you can go ETN and Javonte Williams, or you can go with HN and Kenneth Walker.
Ooh, HN and Kenneth Walker.
Yeah.
There
we go. Come over to the dark
side. Now we're talking.
All right. So with this one, it's a much more balanced build in terms of the, early games versus the afternoon games.
Right.
I think it's about 5 guys
each way, 4 and 5 each.
4 and 5. Yeah. So that's a pretty healthy. That's typically most times what I'd like to do because you're not dead until the very, very end. Whereas like if you do the 8-1 build like we did earlier, if you are not cashing strongly after the 12 o'clock games, your lineup's probably dead.
Right.
If you are flirting with I'm out of cash by 5 points, but I've got Kenneth Walker left, basically the rest of the people that have ownership are mostly going to have 2 to 3 people.
Right.
So he's got to go way off for you to jump that 5-10 points that you seem like, oh, it's obtainable.
Yeah. The Gale says he needs Walker to go off today. And I think that's a common theme in this room. We're going to want some Walker.
My checking account really would love Kenneth Walker to go off today.
Right.
It really would.
So yeah, no, I completely agree, Gail. We're with you. We'll be talking about in the Discord as when that game starts up and we'll be going. But I think, I want to make my next line, the Josh Allen line without Yoshibas, because I think it'll show people the difference in what you can pay for. And it'll make it
that'll be interesting, especially when you're going the most expensive quarterback without going the by default most easiest click.
Exactly. It'll make our lives a little bit harder as as
Right.
creators, but hey, it's okay. We'll just
We'll make it work. We'll make it work. So
Um,
yeah, we'll do a Josh Allen line, and then we'll jump over.
yeah, we'll switch over to the other types of
Yeah.
lines.
If you are a Cowboy fan, Ezekiel Elliott and Dowdle expected to split carries. Dalvin Cook is not expected to play. We are not touching any of them on any kind of slate today, but it is worth mentioning for those guys. We're going to start seeing news. Usually the inactive list drops at 10:30, so we're going to use about a 30-minute time frame to do some fun lines and some weird contests that not many creators, content creators, talk about. But yeah, let's get back to this line, and then we'll get out of the main slate.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna ask questions. Bang.
No,
there it is.
You can't play a Josh Allen line today without Dalton Kincaid.
Which Arizona player do you want? I'm gonna let you tell me. What is happening?
Hold on.
We just got an update. Big update. What happened? Who is it?
Tyreek Hill may have been arrested this morning.
Oh, okay. Don't play Tyreek Hill. If
video emerging of Tyreek Hill arrested on his way to the stadium.
Wow.
That's dead ass just came out. And he's the highest owned player on the entire slate.
Well, we need to take him out of that other line that we just made.
What's that SpongeBob panic meme where he's like,
yeah. Somebody give me the bag.
Swear to God that just happened, bro.
That's crazy.
Okay, so that is officially something that we need to be
Jalen Waddle.
keeping an eye on.
Jalen Waddle is injured too, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't.
Malik Washington.
Ian Rappaport just said Tyreek Hill was detained by police today for what Drew Rosenhaus says is a traffic violation, but he still plans to play. So
okay, he was detained, but for a traffic violation.
I guess so.
Okay, just making sure I understood that.
That's pretty crazy, though.
Jalen Waddle is playing.
That's a really weird way to say handcuffed today, though. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
not on my bingo card.
Jalen Waddle is not on the injury report, so he is an option. We will definitely be watching because he is way too cheap if he is the number one option for the Miami Dolphins. And I'm gonna switch my pick to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That's
Malik
crazy.
Washington is out. Just kidding. It would be
really. Is he injured or is he?
I don't know. Yes. Quad.
Okay.
Ruled out.
That was kind of under the radar, but that kind of opens. Okay.
Who are we picking? If he's neither.
Again, I'm not punting on tight end, but John is one that stood out to us as a interesting value today, and he's in the 3,000. So if you want to twist my arm and say, "Give me a cheap tight end or I kill you," it's Jonnu Smith today.
I can't believe the chat didn't say a word about Tyreek Hill, and they're not. Y'all are talking about this like this is big news, guys.
That's such a big
thing. What
thing.
Doing? But yeah, so we'll look at this. I'm sorry. We'll look at this line. Who do you want from Arizona? Now that we are back on it. Who's your Arizona guy?
Here's somebody interesting that we haven't talked about. He's somebody that we're building up in terms of prop betting, and we're not going Yoshibas, so we need somebody cheap. Michael Wilson.
Yep.
He is projected to be less than 2% owned today. And so if we have 20 lines, we are double the field if we just put them in one time. So we're not having that many lines. We're going to be well over.
Yes.
But it's, we have to find value somewhere if we're not going Yoshibas in this line. That's an interesting option to me, for sure.
Yes. I think he will play. We'll see, though. Did you see that Arizona receiver at only 3,900? Greg Dortch? We're not having a Dortch sighting. You got enough, HN.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now we can basically do anything because these are such low prices here. We're not playing, like we said, Yoshivas. Who do you want to stat? What game would you like to go to next? I actually can. Okay,
talk to me.
How about we go Chicago, Tennessee? Okay, it's gonna be uncomfortable.
Like one from each player?
No. I was gonna use the single player.
Rome?
Yeah, for Chicago because we have a single stack, so we have an open spot basically.
That's fine.
Perfect. 4,000. We just saved all our money again.
So we're not eating the chalk. It's the chalk, but a little bit of chalk.
Bang. Okay. So now we can build our line from here as if this was. We have two options. We got some breathing room.
Yeah. Since we went double cheap receiver, we have to spend up somewhere. We haven't done it yet. I want to prioritize Justin Jefferson in this line.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Okay. Do you want them to bring back with the Giants? I don't know that I care. Either way.
I think Malik Neighbors is very affordable. Do you
We just kind of run out of spots.
Yeah, we kind of run out of spots there. If we do that, and then we have about 5,600 each running back left. Another guy that I like today that nobody's talking about, and I don't know how popular he'll be, is Chuba Hubbard. He's got a clear.
I'm down for that.
He has a clear role for 20 touches today. I'm picking them to win, so that's even better for me. And also running back and defense stack usually correlates pretty well because you're playing from behind, or I'm sorry, you're playing from ahead because your defense is playing well, and then you're getting a lot of opportunities because you're playing from ahead.
Right.
So Chuba Hubbard is somebody that I want to at least fit in one of our community lines today.
Yeah. And then running back. Let's see.
So that leaves about 59 left.
Jacksonville, Miami. Because if we still don't have
a single player in the 3:00 game as well, just for the record.
Ooh, that's interesting. So we could actually make this as a straight early line.
Yeah, true. Actually, if I was to play one, if I had to do one early only line, I actually don't even know right now what quarterback I'd want. It's interesting. But we'll talk about that in a second. But
so if I did that, what do I have?
5,000.
And then you flex. Sorry. 5,000 you could go with
JSN.
You have Chase Brown also, which if you wanted to go the lowest running back
would be
possible.
all 9 in the early.
Right. But yeah, JSN. And I was actually thinking you could go down if we're gonna, stack this game. You could go to wherever he is, Brian Thomas Jr. Now, that's more tournament-esque. Of course, you would go JSN if you were going to be more cash game and more like comfortable with it. But I think Brian Thomas would make sense in this correlated game. We don't have a ton of correlation in this line. So it wouldn't hurt to add some. But which one would you rather have? Obviously, I think you'd rather have JSN.
I mean, if we're building and again, we can build this exact same line with an early only, and I'd be completely fine with it. But I don't want to enter a tournament main line. With all 9 12 o'clock games.
Fair enough.
So that's why I would side JSN. And then, it's an 8-1 build. You want to try to force a Javonte in there or somebody from the Washington Tampa Bay game.
I have $100. I'm $100 short.
We can go double cheap running back. I know we've put in HN a lot.
Yeah, we can change him. So. Yeah, let's stop doing that. 5,500. Let's go do that. Because we haven't talked about, crazy enough, I don't think we put a Javonte line together. And I think all my other lines have Javonte in them.
Yeah. And then, we were 100 short. Let's see, what does that do? 5,400.
See what happens when you don't have Yoshivas, guys?
Yeah,
makes it a little bit more difficult,
tougher, especially if you're a Josh Allen build.
What about? Let's see what happens if I take Rome out and put on. We'll put this guy up here.
It's 49.
Click it. There we go. That gives me 54. Ty Chandler.
We're 2.
And another so close.
Another guy we haven't, other than the Jaden Daniels line, we haven't put Terry McLaurin in another line.
Yeah.
He's worth mentioning. It's 200. We can find a way to get up to him.
Yeah. Justin, you're making this difficult, buddy. We go Greg Dortch. Oh. Hear me out.
Oh man, what do y'all think, chat? What would you prefer with this last guy in? Another guy that we haven't mentioned, but he's a decent play today is Jerome Ford. Obviously, he's by default number 1 option. He's at home. He's a favorite.
He is $100 too much.
Yeah, 100 too much. But I'm not playing him personally. I'm going to take the stand based on I'm expecting at least 10% to have him, and if not, I don't understand the philosophy of it.
Dustin said Dortch. Surprise. I'm okay with that though.
All right, that's fine.
I'm not against it. We get somebody that is definitely going to be very low owned. So Dortch, and then that gives us 5,800, which is a lot of options actually. We could do the
Tyreek Hill was actually on the ground. That's crazy.
Terry McLaurin here, like you said.
Yeah.
So let's talk about correlation for this line. We got the running back, and the Gale did say that the Sims, is that like Chris Sims, or is that like, I think that's Sims, like simmed lines, have Chuba really highly regarded. I agree. It's just
And
Like,
then,
there's
yeah,
so
you're
many
right,
good
Gil.
running backs to me.
Like we mentioned previously when we were talking about the games that are on the slate. Jedrick Wills is out today, and then Jack Conklin sounds like he's going to play, but he's
He
banged up.
was doubtful
He was
at one
okay.
point.
Let me again. Final inactive list come out at 10:30, so we don't have official news yet. But yeah, let me look up Jack Conklin to see if there's any not Conlin.
And so I'll talk through this line. Yeah. We got Josh Allen with the single stack with Dalton Kincaid, and then the bring back with Greg Dortch. Crazy bring back, but hey, it's a tournament line. Javonte and JSN together, and then Chuba Hubbard is stacked with his defense. And then one offs. You get Terry McLaurin and Justin Jefferson. Hold on a second. Let me think about
Get
this.
out of here, Salvetri.
What do you think? How much is Neighbors? 59.
59.
And how much do I have? I have 200. I'm
Yeah.
100 short, of course. It just happens that way.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if you want to, because we don't have Yoshi Voss and another guy we haven't talked about, if you want to take the chance on Chase Brown, we can get down to him from Chuba or
well, we
Javonte.
could have got him in that earlier before we changed Dortch. We could put Michael Wilson back in.
Exactly.
So I'm okay with putting him here instead of McLaurin. You're not as okay, huh?
No, I don't think I want to do 3 running backs if those are the 3 running backs that we're doing.
All cheap running backs.
All cheap running backs. I don't want to do that.
Let's do this.
But if you went down from Chuba to Chase Brown, you could put Wilson back in.
Yeah.
And fine. I think if my math is mathing,
I'll tell you. 57.
Well,
200.
You would still afford Terry, but if you went back down to Dortch, you can afford Neighbors if you really wanted to force him in.
No, we don't have to. I think Terry's fine. I mean, he's going to be one of the highest guys on the slate, but we have guys on this line that are definitely not highly owned. So I think it's a perfectly fine line to go like this. Bang.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
It pops in there. There we go.
So
yeah, give me some updates over there. What's going on?
So I'm just watching a video of Tyreek Hill on the ground on the street outside the stadium, and it's crazy. Montez Sweat and Keenan Allen expected to play. That's not surprising. Jordan Love not on the slate, but for what it's worth, it sounds like he's expected to miss 3 weeks.
Whoa,
which is probably best case scenario after what that looked like this morning. The BDGE thumbnail today is Christian Kirk, so that's fun. That's a fun one.
Wow.
I honestly I didn't think that many people were gonna be on him today.
No,
but maybe because of content creators pumping him up. Maybe he's going to be higher on than I think. That doesn't mean he's going to be the chalkiest guy because there's so many in that range.
Yeah, that also doesn't mean fade him either.
No.
Like, definitely.
I just thought he was going to be a potential 5%er because Brian Thomas is right there. He looked good.
Right.
Evan Ingram's the same exact price, and he scored 2 touchdowns in the most recent game. And I'm just kind of thinking of people liking to follow trends.
Yep. But yeah, so this is probably our final line. I can import some lines that we already did. So let me go grab some. So these
the Gale caught my little tidbit when I was like, Sal, no way. So essentially he was talking about, I was looking up Jack Conklin to see if he was ruled out yet. He is not yet. But he's saying that the Browns line is banged up. And then he says to start Devin Singletary over Jerome Ford. And I'm not there. I'm not
over Jerome Ford? Yeah. No way.
No,
I'm just not going to play either of them. Like, I don't know. Here's a line that I imported from earlier in the week that we did. I think this line's really cool. Kyler with Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison. Bring back is Curtis Samuel. We could also play, instead of Curtis Samuel, you could play Keon Coleman if you wanted to play him. Where is he? Holy crap. There he is. Keon Coleman. Either way, I think Cam was more comfortable with Curtis Samuel. That's why he's in.
I think he'll be lower owned. And
and then JSN. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I was gonna say JSN and Javonte Williams, and then Washington, Tampa Bay. We got Mike Evans and Brian Robinson Jr. So you have a fully correlated line here with the double stack. Bring back 2 secondary stacks and a really cheap defense, and so you're gonna do something like that.
Right. Good morning to you, Ryan. He's essentially the second last guy in. Down bad already. Please pick one. Taysom Hill, Brian Thomas, Adunze, Rico Dowdle, James Conner, Chase Brown, McLaurin. That's first off, that's a pretty solid
standard.
But it's a standard league. The best matchup on the board, I think, is Terry McLaurin. He is the highest upside, I think.
Yeah. I think Chase Brown in standard
James
would
Conner,
be okay,
I think it comes down to James Conner or Terry McLaurin. Do you have a favorite between the two?
against Buffalo, high scoring game. I think I lean James Conner
Yeah.
for standard. If it was PPR, it's definitely Terry McLaurin, no questions.
Right.
But I think for that, I think I'd lean
Yeah.
James Conner because he could fall into the end zone, no problem.
Yeah, I would
So
say go with James Conner and don't hate us if Terry ends up doing as well as we think he will do.
right,
I think both of them kind of safe, but again, standard. I'm assuming is now half PPR. I don't think anybody plays non
yeah,
PPR as standard anymore. But yeah, I guess twisting our arms.
yeah.
Go with James
I
Conner.
lean James Conner for standard. That's fair.
On top of that, we got a Cardinals fan, and he probably would agree with us as well.
Appreciate that. Yeah. But yeah, so that's Maine. We're gonna switch over from Maine. 10:06 now. Oh, I already did it, so we're gonna leave. And we're gonna go to, and I hope this thing is easier. I really do. Hey, I need DraftKings to figure out this whole thing that's going on here, because it is not easy to use. That's regular. Let's go to early. Is this no? Here's
A little
early.
bit more details on the Tyreek Hill situation. He was cited for reckless driving as a result of being pulled over. And after he was pulled over, he got into a verbal altercation with the police.
Nice.
And that is why they ended up detaining him. And he was cited and released after the situation was de escalated. So they actually did not bring him in. It was just straight up put him in handcuffs to calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
And he's like, go get us 30 points on our fantasy team.
Yeah.
Right.
His little swole
Have a good
butt
day.
was not happy. Not happy about getting taken down. Yeah, so this is early only. This is a completely different contest. Make sure that when you watch, of course, we'll be talking about all this stuff, but with us, we talked about this earlier. We like branching out and putting our money in different places. Less people will be playing early only. Most people will be playing main. People that don't play early only but have early only lines in main, they're just cheating themselves basically. We're going to make some lines that look exactly like what we made earlier. We can't put JSN in them, so we'll have to pivot from that, but there are going to be some options for sure. Y'all put some guys that y'all want to see. Yeah, right here you go. Y'all put some options that y'all want to see at quarterback in here.
Yeah, I actually don't even between Josh Allen. Obviously, Jaden Daniels isn't a part of this slate, but
Yeah.
Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Justin Fields are the three ones that I'm thinking about, and maybe even Trevor Lawrence.
Is Justin on this?
Yeah, he's
Oh,
way
he's
at the
way
bottom,
down there.
5,000.
Where is he? There he is. Okay,
Mhm.
perfect. So, where would you like to start?
I don't know.
We made some lines that are going to look pretty similar, so y'all get ready for it.
So I think the first thing we should click on before we even go quarterback is just go Yoshi Voss and Carolina defense and have all the money in the world to spend up on whatever we want to. But just click them in. If they're going to be in the main, they're going to be in the early only. That's just how it is.
Yes, absolutely.
You're still on quarterback. Oh,
Doesn't
no, you were on
matter.
all.
Doesn't matter. No, if you start typing, it does it.
Okay, well.
Yep, there it is.
All right.
Bang.
So,
where do you want to start? Let's see. No one's text. No one's in the chat yet, so we're up.
Let's go with
Josh or Kyler.
Let's go with Josh.
Okay. Got the cheap play, so that makes it easier.
Kind of different from the last line that I was like, we'd be fine with in an early only. We didn't have Yoshi Voss in that line, I don't believe. So obviously putting in Josh Allen, Dalton Kincaid, and then we got to bring it back somehow. Are you still wanting to do Marvin? Are you wanting to double tight end again?
Let's do double. Let's double stack tight end.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Making it a little different. Makes
61,
it interesting.
61-ish left per player.
What game?
Running back is interesting because Javonte and Kenneth Walker,
not on
two
here.
guys I'm heavy on. They're not on the slate. So it's basically you're up to ETN and HN, or you're way down at Chase Brown, Chuba Hubbard, and all these guys. So
I was thinking Chuba. I think that was my first thought actually on this part of the slate, because that gives us, a nice stack with our defense.
All right. So we still need a piece of the Jacksonville Miami game. Are we going with the
we have a lot of money. Make that work.
Oh yeah. Basically, if we're doing one single piece from Miami, are we gonna go HN or Tyreek Hill? What is your thoughts? Tyreek
140 loading.
All right.
I heard it.
Yeah, Tyreek into existence, baby.
Tyreek for 87. And then which receiver would you like from that same team? From the other team, I guess, actually.
Well, if it's just the Jacksonville receivers, obviously I like Christian Kirk the most. He's 55, very affordable.
Okay.
And then that leaves 52, which to me, I think the only option is Chase Brown. Uh, when I did a first
Weird.
look, I thought he was going to be our highest
One of our
owned
higher owned
tournament
guys.
plays, and I have like one line on all types of slates
Right.
with him, and it's kind of uncomfortable. But I think the public's kind of the same way. I think they're just kind of a wait and see. Like, he had some hype, but let's see it. But if Chase
Hmm.
isn't playing, but at the same time, in this line, we would have two Cincinnati players. I don't know how you feel about that.
I think it's interesting. I think it's a weird way to play this slate, I
Mhm.
guess. I thought about going Brian Thomas over Christian Kirk, but I don't know what that would give me money wise to
Yeah,
get
I
a
mean,
running back
none
that's
of the
worth
running
it.
backs like around 6,000 on the 12 o'clock I want. I'm not touching Swift. Pollard, wait and see. Stevenson, he's not going to be owned at all. So maybe that would be a correlation with Yoshi Voss.
Right.
Zach Moss, hell no.
It's
Singletary,
tough.
Salvetri's guy. I'm not on it.
Yeah, it's a tough spot, but actually I don't hate this line. Like I think it's okay to do this because
Okay.
of the pricing and the matchup. He is a 5-box running back. Like he gets all the passing game work. He's not going to
Right.
get sniped by Zach Moss in that way.
So let's go ahead and lock that in. What slate do you want to go on next?
What's next? Prime time.
There's prime time, there's afternoon only, there's Sunday, Monday,
Let's do afternoon only.
afternoon
We
only.
should have probably
I have a very
on this one. Let's talk about each guy though a little
okay.
bit more.
So on this afternoon only, I have a really fun line,
Okay.
and we're gonna build from scratch. I'm not gonna just
I think it's this one.
import it and we just talk about it and that's our line, because I want you to organically just kind of see what you like, because this is the first time that you're building on this style of contest. So obviously the quarterback that we're probably looking at is Jaden Daniels.
Mhm.
What's fun is something that you brought up before, was maybe doing a double bring back.
Yes, I did talk
And I
about
think
that.
it's a perfect slate to do that.
Okay.
And on top of that, there's a lot of good running backs on this slate. And I think going all three is a really fun way to
The
go.
pricing is insane. This is the highest priced running back.
Yeah.
So
And all the prices are the same as the main slate, but it's just kind of filtered down because there's no Dom running backs essentially. So Kenneth Walker and Rashad White are the highest price guys, and really there's not a ton of receivers outside of CeeDee Lamb, who it's
less
hard to get to.
comfortable. Yeah.
And then again, Devontae Adams, the only other guy above 6,500 other than Mike Evans, who I didn't realize you already clicked on him.
Yes.
Essentially, Devontae Adams really hasn't been participating the entire camp. It's a decent matchup, but it's kind of wait and see. It's kind of tough. Defense,
Yeah,
we have so much Carolina that we haven't really talked about any other defense. So I'm kind of interested to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, I was going to say the lowest total game is 39.5, the Raiders versus the Chargers. The Chargers love running the ball. It's going to be slow paced. I'm probably comfortable going to 2,900 with the Chargers and clicking. But did you already have a defense in mind that you were going with?
It's kind of the last piece in, but the lineup I built, I actually went all the way up to Dallas, and it's not like I forced it in. It wasn't, because normally when I build lines, I put the defense first and then see what else I can do.
Right.
It was like, I don't know what defense I want, so I'm going to build what I like and then see how much I can afford it. And I ended up being able to afford it because, like I said, there's 3 guys above 6,500 from the receiver position, nobody above 63 in the running backs,
right?
And then the tight ends, again, we're targeting Kincaid, we're targeting Ingram, we're talking McBride, not on the slate. So the most expensive tight end, I believe, is David Njoku or Jake Ferguson, and they were like $5,000. So, or actually, David's 56. But yeah.
Okay.
So who's the next guy in after this? Obviously, I want to force in both Kenneth Walker and Javonte Williams in this line.
Beautiful. Let me go grab those two. I will wait at defense, even knowing I think that I'm most comfortable with the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm perfectly fine getting to Dallas if that's what we do.
Right.
Otherwise, so we got the correlation here. We got the double stack bring back with the Tampa Bay game. What other games are we looking at? Dallas, Cleveland. Don't love that game. So
I mean, there's a slight revenge narrative with Amari Cooper. Obviously, Deron Bland's out, and Trayvon Diggs' first game off his ACL injury. He suffered early last season. So you're painting a story there. I can see it. JSN is somebody we have a ton of that we haven't clicked on yet. Not opposed to putting him in as well.
What tight end? Let's go see.
Yeah,
That's a big one.
That's
I think.
the one I want to hear your thoughts on, because we
What?
got our good friend just chilling there, waiting to be clicked on.
I know. Brock is probably the guy, but
And usually you don't want to play players when you're playing a defense. And if we end up going with the Chargers defense,
right.
but at the same time, like we're not when it's a small slate like a 4-gamer, you can break rules.
Oh
Like
yeah,
by
for
default,
sure.
like you're gonna have to.
There's just not enough
But
players.
easily, if you click on that, you're able to go to JSN and then you can afford any defense you please.
Right.
That's kind of that. I think that is essentially the line that I did build
with Brock.
with Brock.
Yeah.
But if you're uncomfortable with that, obviously his receiving total is low. We think it's way too low. But if you're just want to wait and see on him, I don't know what my preference would be between Ferguson and Joku.
Probably Fergie,
Fergie?
in my opinion, because I think he has the touchdown upside.
Okay.
So if I went like this, you get 83. I think. Let's go ahead and put, say, the Chargers defense in 54. It's not pretty.
Yeah.
I don't love that. But let's put Brock back in, because I actually was gonna say, and then do the Chargers if I can. And 61, what does that give me?
Get you up to Chris Godwin, a triple bring back.
I almost got to DK, and if I had the choice between DK and JSN, I'm probably going DK. I mean, that makes sense, but price wise and just like who's already done it.
And now you see how I ended up just putting in Cowboys defense, just because it's really interesting. Mathematically, it does make sense. If you didn't want to go Mike Evans, you could go Chris Godwin, and that gives you enough to get up to DK. But I really, if I'm on an afternoon only slate, I want Mike Evans in my line.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to. I think Mike Evans is probably one of the only locks. I do think, and we'll go back to the quarterbacks here in a second and talk through each position, because I think that's important. We didn't really do that on the last slate because we talked so much about all the other quarterbacks.
So Dak is the only guy above 7,000. I'm sorry, even above 6,000.
Yes.
Not a great matchup. Obviously, Cleveland was number 1 in the NFL against the pass last year and 4th against quarterbacks from a fantasy perspective. Deshaun, again, Dallas was okay against quarterbacks, and I just don't trust him, especially at 6,000. I need to have him as a value. Herbert being under 6,000 is crazy. However, I'm not willing to do a double stack with him on this slate.
It's tough.
I just can't get there. Tough. Really, it's just kind of coming down between Baker Mayfield and Jaden Daniels. In this build, you can afford either.
Right.
It makes more sense. More people are probably going to, if we're playing these 9 players, they're probably going to have more builds with Baker because you have 2 Tampa Bay players in this line.
I think this is a really cool line.
Yeah.
I like this line a lot.
You can tell why I played.
Yeah.
Why I played a pretty penny on it.
If I would have been able to get, I mean, you want to see something crazy that I'm okay with doing. If I did this, I think this line's cool. Also, hold on. So, okay, where are we going? DK.
Yeah. So,
and going to Raiders, because it's still the lowest totaled game. And
so you would rather have Daniels and the Raiders over Baker and the Chargers? I'm just asking.
Daniels and the Raiders over Baker and the Chargers. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Because I love the rushing upside.
All right.
But it's very close.
I'm not, sweating you. The other thing that's interesting, not only are we going 3 running backs, and typically people don't do that on a PPR
right.
Site, but notable running backs that were fading. Jerome Ford, he should be over 20% owned in a 4-gamer. Zamir White, I saw our friend Gary, who is in our Discord, that is pretty active in terms of building prop betting lines. He sent an article that had Zamir White as the number 1 play of the day. So if that is the case, I don't agree with that at all. However, if that's the case, that's going to just correlate with ownership.
So I hope everybody plays that. I hope everybody's playing him today, because we probably will not be, and I'm thinking that's going to work out for us.
All right. Well, let's wrap up this slate, and we'll move on to the next one. Which build would you rather go with?
I'm going to submit this one, and then I'm going to submit the other one later.
Okay.
So I'll have both.
Gotcha.
Let me.
I think I prefer the other one as well, but the one that you built is pretty nice.
I think basically you're locking Terry McLaurin, you're locking most of the running backs, and then you're also locking Mike Evans. So it makes it
just kind of figuring out
from there
like the last three pieces, and not many people are building that way. So it's really easy when you already have all the decisions pre-built in. Like M has said time and time again. I think we should move on to the highest total on the entire weekend.
Fun.
The Sunday Night Football showdown slate.
There he is.
Tons of fun.
Where is it? There you are. Ooh, $1.5 million.
Yep. Come this way.
Not playing that one.
Got to build the bankroll, man. Yeah. Again, if you're first time playing or you play light, I don't recommend just putting all of your resources into the biggest contests, because there's a reason there's 150 max. That means that people can generate 150 lineups, and your one lineup is going against a computer simulation. Yes. I would rather build into or put into a low field 20 max or a 3 max or a single entry, to where it kind of evens the playing field and people have to actually hand build or force their favorite line into it. And I think it's better for low bankroll players.
Well, and also, like we talked about earlier, the cash games versus tournaments are completely different in that fact, because like most people cannot hand build 150 lines. Like that's just not a thing you can do.
It's hard to even hand build 20, and I somehow find a way to do it
every week. No,
not in the NFL. Usually I'm pretty. I like to play all the contests, and that's how my version of 20.
So with this line, I actually wanted to do this blindly. Cam obviously has looked at this line, these lines, but I wanted. But
I haven't told him anything about pricing or anything.
I want to do it separately so that we could like talk about it, where like I'm also a novice on like the pricing and who's going to be like the pay down options and things like that. So
one guy that I'm not letting you build this lineup without, I'm not saying you have to put him in your captain line, is obviously Mr. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Sure. Every contest that I'm playing that involves the Sunday Night Football game, whether that's Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Monday on FanDuel, when you can put that in the main, it doesn't matter. He is my favorite receiver the entire weekend, from just a ranking perspective.
Right.
He's got the best matchup. It's just a great spot to target him.
Yep. I'm going to start with a different guy that I think is too cheap. Just looking at it baseline. Let me go through actually. Let's do it on the flex so we can see normal prices.
Yes.
11,000. That's a pretty penny though, but everybody else is less than 10,000. That makes it okay. Cooper Kupp, Puka. No one knows who's going to be better. And even
one thing
DraftKings.
I found interesting was that when I was building other lines and other people were submitting first looks in Discord, a lot of people were flying to Cooper Kupp, and it's because the price difference is so vast. It's about 1,000 to 1,500 depending on the site or slate that you're looking at. They're basically the same price on this slate. So now it's straight up a price doesn't matter. Who would you rather have? And so I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Ooh, I think personally I'd rather have Puka.
Okay. I'm in the same boat.
Okay, cool.
The thing was, I just don't think you can build a line for the Sunday night game without one of them.
No, yeah, you have to. I think you'll have to play one of them.
Now,
for sure.
If you want to group in Amon-Ra and just say the big three, I think you have to play two and not just one. Ooh. And I don't think you can afford a line with all three, because in that event, you need at least one quarterback. And I don't think you can get up to either Goff or Stafford, even though both of them are reasonably priced.
I think if I was going to build both Rams. Go ahead, sorry.
Quick breaking news. Dak Prescott extended 4-year, $240 million. Good luck to Cowboys fans, because that is a awful deal.
Have fun, man. Have fun.
Jesus. Dallas is basically, how Denver has all the stuff and they're going through it. That's Dallas in 2 years. So
I mean, like Denver somehow is looking okay.
Yeah,
I just don't.
But they still got to pay.
Know how Dallas is
Russell
going to.
Russell Wilson $40 million for the next 2 seasons.
But the difference with Denver is they don't have big name players. They paid Pat Surtain. No. Great, that's it.
And with Dallas, they're one of the better drafting teams, so they can find a way to make it work. But in terms of relevance, in terms of I hope that they can work their way into a Super Bowl, that is over with in my eyes, and I'm a Cowboys fan.
I'm so excited for the Raiders, and we might win 8 games. And you're like, in Dallas, it's like a disappointment right now everywhere around the league. Yeah. Let's get back to this game though. If I'm going to play Puka and Cooper, I think you put Matthew Stafford at cap, and you just play like it's going to
Yeah.
be a beatdown type of game. But I don't see that script here, so
Mm.
that doesn't make sense to me. But I think if you're going to be like, I want both of these guys, I would say the script needs to be it's going to be 42 for the Rams, 24 for Detroit, and you just happen to get, say, David Montgomery gets the touchdowns, and that's who your last guy in is,
Mhm.
type of thing. But otherwise, I think it's a little hard to get all of them. So I'd rather go one of the Rams and a Detroit player,
Beautiful.
or and Amon Ra. Let me rephrase that. Who's your favorite quarterback? I know. I think I mean, I have a lean, but
I would say Jared Goff.
really, I'm on the other side for sure. I
I
think
mean,
Matthew
you can't go
Stafford.
wrong either way. You're going to have multiple skill players from both sides, whatever line you happen to choose.
This
And they're both affordable. I think a lot of people, because they're both 9,000 and 8,800, are going to do both.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really interesting. And I don't think that there's anybody like as a true punt that allows you to just go 200
Right.
and then make it work. And if you think this is a 38-41 game, I don't care who it is. It could be Ronnie Rivers, who's probably inactive, or cut. Put him in at $200 and then just play 5 studs, because types of shootouts like this, that works all the time in terms of cashing your lines. And if you're going that route, that's more than fine to do. Obviously, Cody Schrader, don't even know who that is. He's the highest value on the slate,
Yes,
having
you
a
do.
0.8 projection. If he has a single yard, he returns value. So
Cody Schrader is a undrafted free agent that went to, oh man, chat help me. Chat help me. Where did he go originally? Because he got cut and then got picked up by the Rams. He played at Missouri. He had like the most yards ever for the Missouri Tigers as a walk-on. I believe he was a walk-on. He's a pretty great story. Not a good enough athlete to play at the NFL level, but he's a pretty cool story. But yeah, that's terrible. That's like
one
I
interesting,
don't know
now that
what
we
to do
have the
here.
roto values up, and again, we use this as a free tool. You don't have to spend any money to use it. It just kind of helps some players stand out if you
Right.
kind of overlooked them. Colby Parkinson as a starting tight end for the Rams, especially if you're going with the Stafford stack at 3,200, way too cheap. And that's the reason why he is the second highest value, and by default the highest value that is actually has fantasy upside today.
Right. We appreciate RotoWire for giving us these free options. I mean, they even let you build. So if you want a free tool that actually helps you with this stuff, they let you build 2 free lines. So they build your lines. You can see what they project to be the best lines. If you say, oh, well, say you don't like Jared Goff today, you can go in there and exclude him. You go back up, you rebuild the lines. And then, it basically continues just putting them in and helps you like kind of do better with these lines, which is really
Some more breaking news: Steelers officially starting Justin Fields today. So any Fields lines we built, they're staying that way, and you should feel the same if you are building multiple lines. I wouldn't force them into all of them because there's so much value everywhere. But there's no reason you should be spending $2,000 more for Anthony Richardson when Justin Fields can do the same exact thing for $2,000 less.
Right. Really. So this is a cool tool though. That's all. Sorry. That's what I'm getting at. I pulled it up because I hadn't looked at the slate, and it gives me the opportunity to see these really cheap guys and kind of give an idea. There's no really cheap guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Cam said. So it's going to be fun to build.
What's funny is so who is the biggest like star or breakout in the entire preseason?
Jordan Whittington.
Exactly.
And he's not even.
He wasn't even projected for a point.
Wow.
He is $2,000, so he's not minimum price. He is in my first look.
That's pretty cool.
But it's interesting that Roto doesn't even have a single stat for him, and I don't think that Demarcus Robinson at $5,000. I don't think he's just going to get 90% of the snaps. Now with Jordan Whittington, 2,000. If you get a 0, that's going to hurt more so than if you just punted.
More of a tournament play for sure.
It's a tournament play.
He's definitely interesting.
But I'm very curious about his ownership because people are high on him, and he really started getting pumped up in best ball drafts. So him being 2,000, not having a single projection point, what is his ownership going to be? I'm interested in that answer.
Yeah. So Nunya Biz just asked full point PPR flex position: Gus Edwards, Lad McConkey, or AD Mitchell. Full point PPR. Tough.
If it's
I know who I think, but go ahead.
I'm gonna go with AD Mitchell. Based on that, look,
Josh
probably
Downs.
disagree.
Josh Downs is out, so I don't
Josh Downs is
disagree at
out.
all.
It's the one of the highest totals on the slate. Obviously, the Chargers and Raiders game is the lowest total on the slate. So either of those guys in a full PPR is tough. Gus Edwards has to fall into the end zone just like Derrick Henry, but if he doesn't, he's going to have 4 fantasy points. And then McConkey, it's a wait and see. He doesn't have as much competition for touches. DJ Chark is also just got put on IR yesterday, so he'll be out for 4 games. So he's also another guy that less targets to deal with.
Right. I think
that's a real tough decision, but like I said, I'd side with AD.
Yeah, I think I'm on AD also actually, which that's why that look came out because I was on the same page and I was like kind of surprised that we were.
You were surprised that I was on the same page.
Yeah, because I was like, I think the floor might be higher with the other two guys, like naturally, but because you're gonna get touches out of Gus Edwards for sure, stuff like that. But with AD, like if he's starting, and he will be in the slot, like he's pretty much, the number 2 option in my opinion on that offense. Like exactly. I don't think Alec Pierce is him, and I think AD with his testing out of the waters and stuff like that back in April, like he just is better as a football player.
Right. So Dusty in the chat saying that Schefter is reporting Chase is active. I haven't seen that in front of me, but I believe him and Adam Schefter, of course. So that means nothing in terms of our Yoshivas.
No. I agree.
Or like nervousness about it. He's the wide receiver 2 on the team because T. Higgins being out was the reason that we pumped him up.
Not because of
even Chase Brown, like the 1 or 2 lines that we're going to play of him. I'm not nervous at all with Chase. I am nervous playing Chase. I have a fair amount of redraft teams with him, and I'm going to have to make a decision in the final 90 minutes on if I'm going to end up starting him.
I think you just play talent. Yeah. I know, like, even if he's on a snap count 60%, say, he's still going to possibly score a touchdown, and you're going to be like, you're going to be mad at yourself if you don't. Getting back to this slate, as we were going on tangents, I think it's very interesting to look at the pricing because it's like, okay, Amon-Ra's all by himself. Pick your favorite Ram receiver. Pick your favorite quarterback. Pick your favorite running back.
Yeah,
it's like, wow, what are y'all doing?
Pick one.
Yeah,
and usually you're never gonna see this this caliber of skill players on a normal showdown slate be under 10,000.
This cheap is crazy.
But because it's the highest total game, they want you to have fun and build some fun lines. And so that's probably why they're as cheap as they are.
So I'm gonna start.
Even Sam Laporta, we haven't even mentioned him. He's 7,400.
I know
he was tight end 1 in a lot of people's eyes. So,
and I'm probably gonna fade him.
It worked on Thursday.
Yeah.
So.
I'm gonna start with the Amon-Ra. I think that's the place to go. I'm not putting it at the cap because I'm gonna put one of my favorite running backs this year, Kyren Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's not cap. Let's put you at cap, buddy. You're gonna be 12,000.
So it is notable DJ Reader will not play. And so that was a big signing for Detroit.
Yes.
They were really good against running backs. They were number 1 against the run last year. So it is purely this is going to be an inefficient captain, likely, if that is going to happen.
I'll tell you. Let's see. 8 points last year.
Yeah, he had 8
13
points
for 6
on 14 touches in a close game.
Yeah.
So that was kind of shocking, his usage. But he's got higher upside. I'm actually interested to see, because there's been so much hype of Blake Corum. I think he's like around in the 4,000 or 5,000 range.
Man,
I don't know what his ownership is going to be. Obviously, we're not touching him whatsoever. But yeah,
and then I'm going to pick the quarterback next before I pick the receiver up there at the top. I'm going to run out of money really quick though. So
yeah, you're going to have to punt somewhere.
I actually don't feel like that's bad money wise. I feel pretty comfortable with 8,200. I could just let me just shove this guy in here and then we'll just.
Well, if you do, again, you're going to pick somebody that probably gets 0 points. But if all of these guys work out and you have the optimal captain, you're going to not only cash, but cash very well. Another guy I wanted to mention
that the backup. Tim Patrick
third string running back. Tim Patrick. It's interesting. I don't know if he or Allen Robinson, both minimum price. If either are active,
that's an option.
Interesting.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, none of them are going to project anything at all. But Detroit, I wouldn't be shocked if they got somebody to target out of the guys that they just picked up.
I mean, I'm playing the game that this is going to be a 52 point over.
Right.
Like, and that's something that scares me because I don't know that I agree.
Yeah. And then, like I said, one more guy I wanted to mention that we didn't talk about, Jamison Williams, 5,400.
Mhm.
He's a guy that I'm interested in as a deep
That's
play
a
threat,
nice price.
and especially if you're going for Jared Goff. But if you're going with the Stafford build, like I said, I don't want to convince you because I'm not entirely just like taking that stand and confident. Um,
This is an interesting area. I hate this area. What the heck? I would have loved it if I could have got to Cody Parkinson.
Right.
Khalif Raymond actually doesn't have terrible stats when you kind of think of a number 3 option. As long as he gets like 3 targets, you're probably okay. And he is the third option because Josh Reynolds is out of town. So I don't hate it. What did he do against Detroit against the Rams last year? Because they play each other, right?
Who is?
The Detroit and the Rams. They played each other in week 19. He didn't play.
That was the wild card game.
Yeah, he didn't play in it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think that I hate that. I just don't know that I want 3 Detroit
I would
receivers
rather take a chance on a minimum priced Tim Patrick / Allen Robinson than Khalif Raymond for 2,800.
So my first look then will be Tim Patrick.
Sure.
Or actually, oh man, I think my first look is not that.
I just want to say real quick, if you did go a minimum price receiver, and I know you have Kyron as the captain, but Detroit, it is a very tough matchup. You can afford Jared Goff at that point.
At cap?
Just in general, if you went that route, unless you win a higher, I guess, price captain.
I went Jared Goff.
I meant Stafford. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I'd rather go Goff in this lineup. I'm going with the fact that the Rams are going to be ahead because I think the Rams lose the game in the last 5 minutes of the game. So I think they're ahead for most of the game. I think the Rams versus Detroit game is actually super fun, and I wish it wasn't week 1. Like, you know what I mean? Like, for implications to playoff, I'm really high on the Rams. I think they're one of the wild card teams that gets in, or they win that division over San Francisco if San Francisco can't get their crap together.
Right.
You know, and so truly, I actually really like the idea of going with like a build where the Rams are up and then just lose at the end. Mm-hmm. I would have possibly picked the +4.5 for the Rams. Like, I'm comfortable enough to do that. So I think that's something that's interesting too. Let's see your first lineup. I obviously only built a lineup with Kyron at cap. So
essentially, take out Laporta.
Did you start with Kyron?
Let me see who my captain was actually.
I think that it's interesting also to talk about the running backs for Detroit. What was it? Last year. Last year, both running backs in the optimal line.
This is actually what I did. Okay, I went Jahmyr Gibbs at captain.
Perfect. I love it. Fine.
Because we picked the same winner, but it sounds like we're kind of slightly different expectations of this game.
Script. Yeah.
I went Goff, Nakua, and St. Brown.
St. Brown.
And then I went Jamison Williams and Jordan Whittington as the last guy in.
Perfect. I like it. Where is there he is? Come on, buddy.
Yeah, that was my first look. However, again, basically, would you rather go Whittington and Williams or insert minimum price guy and Sam Laporta? That's an interesting
talking
discussion.
Point. Yeah,
but especially if either say Tim Patrick is active and Allen Robinson is inactive, or vice versa, I might be more comfortable with that and Sam Laporta than Jamison Williams. But Jamison Williams in the championship game, after doing nothing, had a 2-touchdown game, finally had a breakout like, hey, yeah, I see why you're first rounder.
He has athleticism and speed. I just don't know that Goff can push the ball the same way that we need him to for a guy like that.
I really want to and I might make a second line later, and then if you want to tail that,
I'd like to
Discord.
I'd love to make an Amon Ra at cap line.
Okay, so I was actually thinking I want to make a double quarterback line.
Ooh, okay.
So
let's do both.
But the thing is, you have to do mid-priced
clear button.
Mid-price captain.
Yes,
we're going to do that, and we're going to get very uncomfortable very fast.
Okay, so I'll throw both in there, and then we'll talk about who we want. So Amon Ra's going in our line,
no matter what. So my first thought was doing a Sam Laporta captain.
Okay,
and if we have to go all the way down to Jamison Williams.
I want to talk about the other option too, where we go both running backs from the Detroit side, which is definitely a thing. Which is we'll talk about.
I mean, look at the. I know it's not end all be all, but the rank against running backs last year, the Rams were number 2, and Detroit was number 1.
Yes.
So it's
gonna
really
be
tough. It's really tough. They're all, and plus it's enticing because all of them are affordable.
Mm-hmm.
Especially look at David Montgomery 6,600.
Oh, there you go. That's actually a kind of fine line. I don't
Go with the kicker.
Yeah, but you're gonna go 5-1, which makes it less comfortable.
But then also we're fading both Puka and Cup. So
what if I did this?
What if you went
with who do you want? Puka? Let's put Puka in there. We got $300. So
yeah, I like that.
Which one? That's the real question.
It doesn't matter. Well, we don't know the answer to that until
later.
6 o'clock.
Yeah. So whichever one is active, pick that guy.
Yeah, that's a good build.
It's fun.
You got both. The only thing is the biggest stand you're taking is you are fading every single running back.
Yes.
And that's going to be very, very different.
Yeah. Hey, Gibber. Glad you're here. We needed you for some main earlier. We're going to talk about some prize picks and some underdog here in a little bit. Cam is about to tell me who is active and inactive.
Yeah. So we pretty much went through the biggest names. I'm going to pull up the NFL.com to see if there's anybody that jumps out that
I can do that.
I didn't expect.
I can do that if we need.
Actually, yeah, I would probably say you do that so they can get the visual.
Let me see. I can't spell. Cool. Oh, it's mad at me. Great. Oh, that's an actual thing. Wow. Sorry, I just got a virus.
Whoops.
Okay. Slowly. Okay. Where?
All right. Scroll down.
I'm trying. It's being slow. Inactive
all right. So
sheet. Do you see it?
Well, scroll up. You passed.
Where? Might not.
Okay. So I don't really see. Go to the news tab at the top. Say injuries.
Let's go check it out. We'll know where this is next time. Here we go. Actually, this is
just the practice list.
Dang it.
Oh my God.
I got it. You find it. I can't.
Week 1 inactive. Go ESPN and go week 1 inactive. Google that. So one that I saw as a value, we're not going to talk about. We're probably not. Well, it makes us happy a little bit. Ian Thomas and Tommy Tremble for Carolina are both out. Jatavion Sanders is minimum priced at $2,500. Yeah, that's the one.
This one?
Yes.
2023.
Oh,
that's what I was looking at. I don't think HN's inactive. So
okay.
All right, I'm gonna let you.
What did you Google?
Inactive list. I just put a little thing by accident, but I'll go here. I have the NFL one.
No, you don't.
Oh my gosh, what is happening?
Yeah, swap that out. And
ESPN.
Type ESPN.
ESPN.
That's it.
There we go. All right, 42 minutes ago. Here we go. Jamar Chase, Tyler Lockett, and others.
So like I said, Ian Thomas, Tommy Tremble both out. If you like Jatavion Sanders at minimum price at $2,500, he's interesting. He's worth a notable. Obviously, Jamar Chase, we already said was active. T. Higgins inactive. That was expected. So was Josh Downs. Indy will not have their starting kicker. So worth mentioning if you're talking about touchdowns and going for it on 4th down, it'll be interesting to see. Tyreek Hill, not via injury, but via arrest, is going to play.
Thanks, Nick.
But Malik Washington is out. Obviously, Russell Wilson as well. Roman Wilson, both are Wilsons for Pittsburgh, will not play. DeAndre Hopkins is active, but he's banged up. And then from the 3 o'clock games, you got DJ Chark, who was out. Like I mentioned, he was put on IR. CeeDee Lamb is going to be active. Tyler Lockett still has not been ruled in, but he was full on Friday, so I would expect him to be limited. But that doesn't concern me at all with JSN and Kenneth Walker that we have a lot of shares of. The others aren't really relevant. Marcus Mariota is out on IR. Trey Palmer is questionable / could be out. Jalen McMillan, I thought was going to be in the wide receiver 3 role anyways. That just means more snaps for him. If you want a really good punt, I wish the afternoon slate actually had more spin ups because I was interested in playing him as like a secondary bring back, but there's just no reason to go that low if there's no one you're going up to if you're not confident in CD or somebody like Devontae Adams.
Right, for sure. But this is actually pretty light.
Yeah,
I'm not hurting at all with any of these guys. So we kind of went through this and we kind of talked about it earlier, but I'm just like, the only person that worries me is, Tyreek Hill. Like, I mean, he's going to play. So I guess I shouldn't be worried. Hopefully we got good reports, kind of thing. But yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, Gary, you should have been on Justin Fields on Thursday if you were wanting to add him. Based on the
Yeah.
fact that Russell Wilson didn't practice at all Thursday, that would have immediately been okay, I need to look at him.
Yes.
I don't actually know who in our big friend league.
Bailey did.
Bailey did. Okay, well, he needed to because he lost Jordan Love,
And
so
that was today.
that's a good pickup by.
He did that today. He just did that, I think.
Yeah. Honestly, shame on the league for allowing Justin Fields to be a free agent all the way till Sunday morning.
But in best ball, we did not fade him.
He is our most exposed late rounder outside of Audric Estime.
Yep,
40% owned, and all we said was give us 3 games, and lo and behold, we didn't realize week 1.
He might give us.
He might give us 17
of them. Yeah. So
this is a big day for him because if he balls out, even if Wilson's healthy, say Pittsburgh upsets Atlanta, and it's because of the play by Justin Fields, I don't know how you even contemplate putting Russell Wilson back
starting
in.
him. I agree. Something that we'll go over. I don't know if you want to attack another way on this slate or if you want to go to a different.
You're going to take the Fields under all day. What is the under? What under are you discussing? Are you talking about the fantasy points? Or are you talking about yardage props?
I took Russell Wilson's under. Doesn't matter because he's inactive, but
so
I had it like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. I actually don't know what Justin Fields his
props.
He doesn't have any props on PrizePicks or Underdog. But his fantasy projection on RotoWire as of this morning was 15.91, and I would hammer the over. And if you want to bet me on that, then you can do so, Mr. Gear Bear.
Not yet. We ain't got him yet. Actually, talking about PrizePicks, make sure you use your free square. It is
up to $10 on a play. And then also Dak Prescott, the newly extended Dallas Cowboys quarterback. He has a free square on Underdog. We'll talk about that as well. They've been doing promos all week. I really hope y'all have been hitting it. We had a great community win on Thursday. Friday was not so great because of Christian Watson snipe. And then yesterday we fell one short because Texas kicked too much ass against Michigan.
Exactly. From the Thursday game, I mean, you can see here, hopefully it'll open. Not like I wanted it to. You can see that, I think this is Gary Cash right here, $100, quick 100. Cam Cash big.
And there's a lot of still open active lines that have a lot of green to them that can finish out today.
Yes.
DraftKings, it was great. We had all 6 players right on that line. The big one.
I can't see it.
I wish that would.
That's
maximize.
Just not smart.
Yeah, but ended up getting 3rd place, and the only difference was instead of Rashee Rice at captain, it was Xavier Worthy at captain. All 6 players were the same. That would have made us thousandaires, and that would have been awesome.
Yes. As you can see, everybody was hitting. We even got mine. Smaller lineups. Cam made over $900
on DraftKings.
On DraftKings, Bailey hits with his 2-pick here. Like we just really did well. The Gale, he's in the chat. We've been talking to him today. As you can see, everybody's making money. He made $200 on this line. So if you have not gotten in our Discord, we are killing it. We also are very, very transparent. We tell you if we think that something is, not going to go well, don't put as much money on this game because of this and
prime
that.
example was the Friday night game
where
we were like,
nope, don't do it.
Don't do it. And I ended up playing a second line anyway because me and Emery, without discussing, built the same line.
Right.
And so I was like, well, you got to play it when that happens. And then Jaden Reed was like, I'll score 2, basically 3 touchdowns, and then we were dead.
Wide open touchdowns.
You're not going to hit them all. Basically 22% of people cash in every contest. And if you hit at a 50% hit rate, you're going to be one of the less than 10% that profit on sites like these. And that is one of us over the last few years in football.
Right. Absolutely. And if you look, we go over everything. You have fantasy football on here. If you have questions, it looks like there is a chat for fantasy football.
Let me open that up and see.
Chase is playing. Okay. Good job, Bailey.
Gotcha. But no starts and sits question, which again, we should have been kind of keeping an eye on it. But as we grow more and more in the community, if you do have start sit questions, like we've had in the chat on the live stream, if you have best ball questions, best ball questions don't really matter now.
Right.
But, DraftKings questions, props, spread picks, we're very transparent. We're going to tell you every single lineup that we play pretty much.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, over time, we're going to have more optimizers, and we're going to talk about shares and ownership. That's a whole different animal that we haven't even really dabbled into because we don't really want to, purchase those things yet.
They're very expensive, and if you are
It
a
takes
novice
time.
player, if you're watching this, you're probably most likely a novice player that just wants to get into this or is
And
in
just
it
have fun.
and loves building hand lines because you like watching your players.
Yeah.
Steiger actually had a question earlier that Cam answered. Looking at stuff like we answer these questions even if we don't. Like we talked about, we want Buffalo, Arizona. We are in here a lot. There's new unreads for other things. We talk about underdog and prize picks. I don't know. Oh yeah, we're excited. Jalen Warren at do we like that? Types of things. So definitely get into the line, get in here and hang out with us, and we'll talk lines with you.
Yeah, and we're not always, like I said, we're never batting 1,000. We're gonna have
No.
wrong calls, but we're rooting for the community. So, prime example was we had a couple guys that were hammering the Derrick Henry touchdown prop, and we were just like, we're gonna stay away. That doesn't translate to take the under or you're wrong about that pick. It's
Right.
just, hey,
We
there's
just
like 10 props I like in this game, and it's just not one of them. So I'm gonna stay away. Well, guess what? We were right about fading Derrick Henry from a DFS perspective, and they were right because he hit the first touchdown.
because he fell into the
Win-win.
end
That
zone,
is
yeah.
the best case scenario when you're at a difference of opinion. It's not a I'm right, you're wrong. It's a let's all be right and let's all prosper.
Right. And then we can run some lines in here, but here's your free pick. Dak Prescott over half a yard. It's free money. Go get it. Put it in a line with some of these other guys that we're going to talk about. Apparently, you cannot pick these anymore because he might not be playing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just like kind of going over stuff. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah. Spam the chat with questions if you got some. If you got last second start sit decisions questions or DFS questions of stuff we've already gone over. This last 15, 20 minutes is for you guys to just purely be the content for us. And then we'll probably get out of here about 11:15 and finish up our lines and then get in the Discord and show our final looks.
Yeah, and I have prize picks open. I have DraftKings open, underdog. So if we want to go to those places, I can do that and move around. But yeah, if you have start and sit for sure, ask those questions too. And friends, I know we've talked about all these things. We can actually go check out the prime time.
Gary, I don't know if you looked at our X, but the one
Thanks,
tweet
Gail.
that I've actually sent out today is that the Dallas Cowboys window to win the Super Bowl for the next 5 years has officially closed.
Yep.
Now that he has been extended for 4 years, $240 million. That is an awful deal. As a Cowboys fan, I'm disgusted. And, it's not about being right or wrong about the bowl prediction, which I had him playing his last year in Dallas. It's just about that I don't want to pay him $60 million when I know what has happened year in and year out when it comes down to it. He's going to have a great fantasy season. We played a lot of lines with him, and I don't care because in January, that's not what matters, and he doesn't come through when he does.
Right. Yeah, see you in the cord. Yes, absolutely. We will send all the winnings into the Discord later so we can
be a day,
show it off.
guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Week
Week one, baby.
We're here.
So I actually brought up the primetime slate because I don't see any questions. I think we should talk about it, even knowing we hate the prices.
I love the primetime slates always, but I hated this slate because there's just no cheap guys and there's so many expensive guys. So on the Sunday night football showdown, how all the guys were too cheap, and it's because they want you to fit in some guys. They didn't feel the same way about the primetime slate. So you have to make a lot of fade decisions. And my first look didn't have a single 49er, and it made me throw up.
I'm gonna put the Jets in because I agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is so. Let's check it out. What quarterback do we want to go with? I think it's got to be one of these two for sure. I'm Matthew Stafford, like I said earlier. So, do you want to build a Goff or a Stafford line?
Let's go with Goff.
All right, easier.
The two easiest wide receiver clicks, and then we'll move over to running back. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Garrett Wilson need to go in the line.
Beautiful. Let's see, Denar.
It gets disgusting.
Tough. Okay.
I mean, Whittington is 33, I think.
Tight end.
I have no idea what to do with.
I pay up, but you can't because you're gonna run out of money. Oh man, Kittle, maybe. Conklin is a no. Tough because you're gonna no matter what you're gonna get screwed over here. I'm okay putting Kittle in because you said you hadn't had any San Francisco players. Let's just force one right now. makes it a little easier.
I'm fading Christian McCaffrey on this slate.
I agree.
I actually took I made one last 6 pick last night, and I took the under on his fantasy points, which is 21.5, I think.
Okay.
Him being limited with the calf/Achilles, he is not going to get the volume, and I just don't see, unless he scores 2 touchdowns, I don't see him getting enough workload in the passing game to warrant getting 22 points without bonuses.
Right, for sure. Do you want to play his backup?
It's on the board.
We're gonna have to do something.
No, I know.
We're at 49.
It's gonna be different because Breece Hall, Kyron, Gibbs,
They're all
McCaffrey,
gonna be
like
attacked.
Yeah.
Let's
if we go Mason, we're gonna by default be fading at least 4 of those guys.
Yes. I don't know who to go second running back. It could be David Montgomery, but I'd rather go
I would
here.
say if Gibbs and Montgomery are basically the same price, I would rather go with Gibbs.
Absolutely.
Gibbs is $1,800 different on the showdown. I don't know why they're the same price.
There's my double stack. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see who's free.
Could we do a triple? Jameson Williams is reasonably priced. The one receiver I'm fading for sure is Mike Williams at 5,600, let alone. He's also going to be on a snap count as well. We talked about minimum price receivers. Jordan Whittington worth a look.
Yeah. It gets gross down here, man. We're going to go double tight end. Watch out.
I mean, we probably have to. If we want Williams, then we have just another gross flex that we got to play.
Oh, Braylon. Nope.
No.
So.
But if you went all the way down to like a minimum price instead of Jameson Williams, that doesn't even get you enough to get the double elite tight end.
This is where I was going to go. It was Khalif Raymond.
And what are you
I don't want Mike.
Exactly. You can't get anybody. There's nobody in the 5,000s essentially this week. So another idea, you're talking about double tight end. That's interesting. Tyler Conklin.
Yes.
Is 32, I believe.
Okay.
Worth mentioning. Being that cheap.
Where is he? Minflex, right? Yeah. Okay. Conklin.
Or maybe he's 3,000.
I got it.
He's not that expensive. I know that.
I'll fix the problem.
He's 3,000. Or yeah, he's even 3,000.
Do I have a RAM? I don't have a single RAM. That is not going to work for me.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know, man.
Now, if you went from Jordan Mason, you can afford Kyron now.
Oh yeah. It's true.
Or we can go up from Khalif Raymond, but there's nobody in the 5K range.
Actually,
it's really gross.
I don't hate that. Everybody plays. Everybody's gonna play.
Normally we're gonna be doing not showdown, but primetime lines all the time and play heavy. But this is not a week where you play heavy in the showdown, or God bless, in the primetime slate. Even on FanDuel, who it's a lot easier to afford these expensive guys, you can't build anything. It's hard. So let's play light. That's by default probably the best we can do.
Yes.
And just kind of go from there.
Steiger just woke up, got his coffee. Love that.
You're telling me Raven was in here 3 hours before you? Wow.
Yeah, he actually was the first comment,
and then he just went.
He fell back asleep. Him and Chevy took a nap. No, but I don't hate this line actually. Funny enough, double stack is with Gibbs and Brown. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the best thing I think we could build. If that makes sense.
Let's submit that, and then one contest we didn't talk about since we haven't gotten any questions yet. I want to build a Sunday Monday line with you, because
you said that's hard too, right?
No, it's easy.
Oh, it's easy.
But because we're forcing in Amon-Ra St. Brown, because I said he is my favorite receiver play on the entire slate. If you can play him, just play him. That's third contest. No.
Oh, did I miss it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there you go. All right. Yeah. Let's try.
So it's a 14-game slate.
Yes.
Excluding obviously the games that have already happened. But it goes all the way to the Monday night game. It's very interesting.
Same guys.
Yeah. Same guys. I would say let's build a line and see what we can do with Amon-Ra in our line.
Let's see if I can find it. Because like I said,
it should be right after.
Should be. There it is. All right. Let's do another $3. 20 max.
All right. So
we're gonna add him on Raw. You said
first 3 things we're gonna do is put Yoshi Boss, Carolina, and Amon-Ra and see what we can do.
Okay. There's one wide receiver. I'm guessing Amon-Ra is probably the most expensive.
82. No.
Or one of the most expensive. Not the most expensive. And
Yoshi.
All right.
All right. Now we got some money. Let's 6,000 basically a player. Where do you want to start?
Let's get a Rams bring back.
You want to force the Rams to bring back.
I don't have to.
So what
Do
I
you not
mentioned.
like the Rams?
So what I mentioned, if you filter to the receiver position, what I mentioned was that Puka and Cup, there's a significant gap between the two.
Oh yeah.
But then I guess
No, it's only
less
300 on
on
here.
it's 300 on this. But it's just like, do you like Puka coming off a knee injury instead of Mike Evans or Marvin Harrison?
Right.
Probably
Fair
not.
enough.
I don't want to force
Cooper
a
Kupp.
double, especially because I think that game is actually lower scoring than it appears. And I could be wrong about that, but I just don't think it's a game that I want to do a stack or even mini stack with.
Well, I was gonna say because it's the
I'm
highest total though.
It is, but we're also more comfortable in the Buffalo, Arizona, or Jacksonville, Miami game. So I would rather fit at least four players from those.
Oh, I see what he was doing. He was playing football.
So you're saying you weren't in the stream?
He was not in the stream.
Still, shame.
Quarterback wise, then I was thinking we could do a Jared Goff stack here. And I don't know that it does not make sense because I haven't looked at this.
I don't want him over.
He's $100
as a stand alone. I don't like him more than Lawrence.
I needed him to be in the
Jaden Daniels,
5,900 range.
No,
he's not in the 5,900
exactly.
range. Okay, well then we will not do that. Let's go ahead and talk about the guys we like. Then, we've spent up already, so let's go to quarterback. And I mean, I'm gonna go with the bread and butter. There he is. There's my bread. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then you got to put in.
Got to find my butter.
So then that means you're putting in Marvin. You're also putting in Kincaid. Or are you going with bread?
Well, I can go Marvin. That's fine. I like Marvin.
Well, who's going to be the bring back for Buffalo?
Kincaid.
Yeah.
Either way.
So we're gonna do multiple tight end double.
Yeah. So Detroit. Okay. Would you be against this bring back then? I don't know if it works, but it's the same price as Achane.
No, not over Achane.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. It's just a bad game script. I'm just wondering. It was just a question. Okay, so what running back then would you like to go with?
I mean,
or what game, I guess, because that's our stack.
And again, on Sunday, Monday, when the entire NFL slate is on the board, you can break more rules because you're just doing best available values. So we're not going to just force a double bring back or anything of that nature. Again, a lot of mid-tier running backs that we like. I think we should fit in one of the studs. So between ETN and HN, do you have a preference?
No.
So I would say
my preference is ETN, but it's also like, what are we gonna do?
I want to see if you put in HN and Kirk as a bring back. What left do we have? 40. Well, never mind. That's gonna leave 4,600 for a running back, and I'm not playing Jordan Mason.
All right. So let's take HN back out. If I still have that same problem though, if I go ETN.
Yeah. Decisions. Or we can just go double mid-tier running back.
Fine.
Okay.
Because that's what we did a lot.
Kenneth Walker and Javonte?
No. Let's do Javonte.
No fun.
Hold on. Okay. And JSN.
Okay.
And see.
That's going to leave like 66.
That's what I was wondering where we're at. Just first, before we do both, okay?
I'm so good.
And then we have a flex.
So we got 200 to try to fit HN.
Mm-hmm.
We can go Gibbs as a
I mean, I could could play McBride instead of Marvin.
Okay, let's try that then. That opens up 7,700.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah, that's 7,700.
Wow, Laporta. And who was my other? Oh, yeah.
JSN.
Yeah, JSN.
Or you can go Ken Walker and it's 65 left. Another guy I like, obviously, on this slate is Garrett Wilson. He's 69, though, so we would still have to find ways to make it work.
Or I have 77, which I don't think I like.
I mean, you can put in HN. I mean, not HN, ETN, and it leaves 500 remainder. You only have one play from that game, but it's just a piece that we like.
Let's do the other. Let's try Kenneth Walker here. It worked out in your favor, Cameron.
Yay.
61. Okay, and then
so that leaves 65.
DJ Moore is a guy that we have not talked about enough today that I could get to.
If you wanted to, Oh, well, we're doing a Kyler stack, so we can't really get off McBride.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Could go up to Josh.
Go up to Josh. That leaves us 4,900.
Okay.
And then
What about Josh 49? We're doing something different than we had. Oh yeah. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We're okay. Double stacking a team that we're not with bad
just
correlation.
do it, man.
and-
It's gonna work. It's gonna work.
Man.
All right. Yeah. So that's our Sunday, Monday. Last call. Any kind of questions? Start, sit. DFS questions, prop betting, anything at all in mind. Before we do get out of here, we do have to finalize our lines. We are within an hour of the first NFL Sunday of the season. We can't thank you guys enough for tuning in. If you have, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Join our Discord. We're going to be active in there today. We're going to be posting all the winning lineups because we're going to have every single one of them in that chat. But yeah, like I said, last call for questions, and then we'll get out of your hair. We can't thank you guys enough for your time on our first NFL Sunday with game time discussions.
Hopefully, I'll give y'all a couple minutes to type them in if y'all do have them. If not, we will leave here in minute 30. We'll leave here at 11. Well, 11:11.
I
was gonna say 11:11, but
we'll give a couple minutes for responses. Anything last? What's your biggest must play today?
On main?
Yeah. Pick one guy. Doesn't matter who it is.
Oh well, it's. Oh well, I guess it's cheating, but it's Dalton Kincaid, I guess.
Dalton Kincaid.
I think
he's my most owned skill player, and my biggest stand today is Kenneth Walker.
Fair enough.
He is going to go for over 20 points. That is my bold prediction of the day.
Favorite game
of the slate.
Go ahead.
It's either Buffalo and Arizona. We have a ton of that, or we got Jacksonville or Miami. That is going to be a fun game to watch for sure.
My favorite game of the day, not slate, is Detroit the Rams. That game is going to be awesome for Sunday Night Football first week. That game is going to be so much fun. Yes,
wonderful.
Oh, I've been waiting all day for Sunday night. Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, baby. But yeah, we appreciate y'all. And if y'all have no more questions, we will get out of here. Let me stop sharing.
But yeah, we'll be active in Discord today. We'll be talking for whoever wants to. Send all our lines there as well if you guys want to tail. If not, we appreciate your time. We'll be doing a first look recording early in the week, and we will release that on Wednesday. We'll have a fresh batch of new props, part 1 and part 2 on both sites. And then next Sunday, we'll be doing this all over again. It's going to be a reoccurring thing. I can't thank you guys enough, and I can't wait to see y'all next week.
Yep. We're also going to be me and Dustin are going to be doing college football reaction videos to whatever happened. I'm talking about Ashton Genty because he is awesome at football. Dude is different. Just wait, guys, till next year. Just wait when you're like drafting next year and you have to pick 3 or 4 rookie running backs to be happy. But yeah, so we'll do that. We're going to be posting Football Academy videos and we're going to be going. So we are probably posting the most videos during the season, funny enough, when we thought that was going to be the opposite case.
Right. But yeah, lot to do, lots to talk about. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. I hope you guys have a good day. Let's all profit. Let's all prosper. And until then, we will see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.